Ramen is a vitamin. Hell without a capsule. Smooth criminal on beat breaks. Never put me in your box if the shit eats tapes. The city never sleeps. Good morning, folks. Hope everyone's had a great weekend. Hope you had a good snooze over the weekend. Happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Let me wait till people come in the room before I say these things. We're going to get started in about 50 seconds, 50. In about 50 seconds, we are going to get started on the subject of the day. We're going to talk about this mayor in Newark, New Jersey, who got himself arrested, briefly incarcerated, and detained through, I guess, what they're calling some form of civil disobedience. In other words, putting on a show of going against whatever the Trump regime is doing and then getting on the internet and sending your friends on the internet to make it seem like you are doing a whole bunch of things to help them. We know the game. We know the hustle. That's what we're going to talk about here today. Good morning, everybody. As y'all are checking in, tell me your locations. Tell me your location as y'all are checking in. We are going to talk here today about the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, getting himself arrested at an ICE facility, ICE, that is Immigration and Customs Enforcement Office. This is May 9th, which is what? That was Friday, right? Yeah, this past Friday. Getting himself arrested. As I told you all, the topic is sometimes based on something that happens between the time that my last live stream ended and the time the next live stream started. This is a prime example of that. We are live on Rumble. Good morning. Live on YouTube, X. Good morning. Facebook. As we proceed, LinkedIn. I got to actually make sure we're active on LinkedIn. So now we are officially live on LinkedIn. We're good on Facebook. We are good on X, Rumble, YouTube. We're good over there on Instagram. Good over here on TikTok. Tell me your locations as y'all are checking in. The topic here today is the mayor of Newark, New Jersey. In North Jersey, not far from New York City. This guy got himself arrested in an ICE facility in Newark. And we're going to talk about what happened, why it happened, and the bigger picture of this, which of course is not really about this guy. It kind of is, but it's kind of not. And what are the implications of this, and what are people really trying to do here? This is really about people trying to go against the Trump regime in any way, shape, or form, and they're just using anything they can do to draw a headline to get attention to themselves. This is all political theater, but since people like the theater, that's why we're talking about it. If people didn't like the theater, I wouldn't be talking about it. So I'm going to give the background on this in a second. Let me introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. My name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year professional athlete. I'm author of 41 books, and I'm 4 TEDx. I also own this company called Work on Your Game. We work with professional service entrepreneurs to strategize, systematize, and scale their businesses up to the 6 or 7 figure level. Learn more about that by going to the links in my profile for Work on Your Game University.com. And also you can send a DM. Someone on my team will get back to you and let you know what the next steps are. So let's talk about this topic here and what exactly happened for those of you who don't know what happened. So on May 9th, and again, I'm taking this straight from the news reports, the mayor of New York, this guy's name is Ras Baraka. He's the mayor of Newark, New Jersey. He was arrested at the Delaney Hall Immigration Customs Enforcement, that's also known as ICE. He's arrested at an ICE center in Newark, New Jersey, during what he and his followers, they call this a protest. So they were protesting at the ICE facility because I know the whole deal right now with Trump, his administration, and what's our guy's name? Tom Homan and Kristi Noem and all these folks. They're all about Operation Warp Speed. They're going to deport as many people who are not here with proper documentation, illegals, undocumented people. They're going to get them out of the country as quickly as possible. And the ICE facilities are places where some of these people are held before they are shipped out of here, or they're held under suspicion of they might need to be shipped out of here. So there's one of these centers in Newark, New Jersey. So the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, he went to the place and he was demonstrating and protesting outside of the facility. So he got arrested there. Now, he was accompanied by some Democratic representatives, Bonnie Watson Coleman, Rod Menendez Jr., LaMonica McIver. They wanted to conduct an oversight visit of this facility, which is newly reopened and is operated by a private prison company called the Geo Group. Now, the mayor got charged with trespassing because he allegedly, according to reports, he defied orders to leave the premises. So he was trying to inspect the premises. He was told to leave the premises. He didn't leave, and he got arrested, according to the story. Now, he denies that this is what happened. He denies that he was instructed to leave and didn't leave. He says he was invited onto the property and nobody told him to leave, but then he ends up getting arrested anyway. That's the story, or the different sides of the story. He got released after he was in custody for about 5 hours. He has vowed to continue legal action against this company, the private company that owns the facility, because he cites concerns over the facility's permitting and operations. Now, let's just stop right there. All right, let's just stop right there. How many of you think that that's the real reason why he is there, that he's concerned with the city's permitting and operations, versus how many of you think he's doing it just because he's just trying to play the political game and make a show of showing up against the current administration? I'm assuming this guy's a Democrat. I think he's just trying to make a show. That's personally what I think. I think he's just trying to make a show. The current administration is doing this thing, and I want to show that I'm against the current administration. So to make the best show of going against the current administration, I'm going to find the most emotionally triggering thing that the current administration is doing, and I'm going to make a show of going against that. That's pretty much what he's doing. Now, if it wasn't immigration, it'd be something else. This is what we call political theater. This is what politicians do. They just want to make a show of going against whatever's going on, so they go and do whatever they got to do to draw some attention to themselves. That's what he did. Now, the crux of the legal debate here, because the argument here was what he did. Is that why he got arrested? Did he get arrested for the reason that the authorities say he got arrested, or did he get arrested for the reason that he says he was arrested, that nobody told him to leave and he just got arrested out of nowhere? So some of y'all might have saw this video on social media. If I take a bathroom break here later on, I'll play the video so y'all can see it. So the crux of the legal debate here centers on whether he was unlawfully trespassing or he had a legitimate reason to exercise oversight, and oversight authority. So while federal authorities maintain that the facility is under federal jurisdiction and he ignored orders to leave, he says, and his supporters say, he was acting within his rights as a city official concerned about the facility's compliance with local laws. Well, right here already, we already starting to get conflicts in the story. Because the first thing that Ras Baraka said, the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, was that he was never told to leave, and then he just got arrested out of nowhere, which that doesn't even make sense. You were never told to leave, you just got arrested, they just put cuffs on you and nobody said anything. That's what he's alleging, a part of his story. But then on the other side of this conversation, we further the conversation, he's saying that he was within his rights to be in the facility because he was just looking over their compliance with local laws. So which was it? Is it you were never told to leave and they just arrested you out of nowhere because you were invited to be there, or you were coming in there trying to basically throw your weight around, and while you were doing that under your right to do it, you got arrested because you said, hey, I'm throwing my weight around. They said leave. You said, no, I don't have to because I get to do this. Then they arrest you. Which one is it? So they already told two different stories here, and we're just getting into this. Now, the situation is further complicated by the political context. For those of you who don't know, Mr. Baraka, Mayor Baraka of Newark, is allegedly running for governor in the state of New Jersey. And he's an outspoken critic of federal immigration policies. How many of you could have guessed that? So some view his arrest as politically motivated. I view it as politically motivated. But the question is, whose motivation are we talking? Are we talking the motivation of the people who don't like what he did? Or did he do it on purpose to get himself arrested, knowing he was going to get arrested, knowing that no bad thing is going to happen to him? He's a damn mayor. There's cameras everywhere. He knew the worst thing is going to happen. I'm going to get detained for a few hours, and then I'll get out, and then I get to make a big show of this. Hey, look at me. And when he goes on the political campaign again, when he gets back on the campaign trail, he can say, hey, everybody, look at me. I went and got myself arrested because I was trying to help you all by shutting down this ICE center, and they went and arrested me because I was going against the bad things that they're doing. Again, this is all political theater. Now, some people see it as a necessary enforcement of law, and some see it as politically motivated. I say it's actually both. This is not an either or. It's both. They're doing both at the same time. So now what we're going to do here today, as I always do, is we're going to look at both sides of this situation. Some pros and some cons for what Mayor Baraka did. And this is a bigger picture story. I want y'all to understand. This is much bigger than Mayor Ras Baraka, because generally I never even heard of this guy. I don't live in New Jersey. Don't really care about what's happening in New Jersey, or who's the governor of New Jersey, or the mayor of any city in New Jersey. However, some of you may live in New Jersey and may be more plugged into the story. But what I want to do is talk about both ways that someone could look at this situation, why it happened, how it happened, and the bigger picture of what this means for all of us, because most of you don't live in New Jersey and most of you don't live in Newark, New Jersey. So let's talk about what the bigger picture says, what this says about the bigger picture of everything that's happening when it comes to this immigration issue, which is a big topic politically here in the United States. I would think right now with the Trump the Trump administration, the biggest topic I think is this immigration thing, because people have clearly drawn a line, and there are two clear sides as to either you are for getting people out of here who don't have proper documentation, or you are against it for a myriad of different reasons that people keep coming up with and throwing out there, which is what this situation led to. So the mayor says that this ICE facility is operating without proper permits, and it blocked city inspectors from going in and looking into their permits. This raises legal and safety concerns about the facility itself. Now, let's just assume that he's telling the truth. Assume he says they don't have proper permits and they're operating without proper permits. That's why he went down there. When's the last time a mayor of a city needs to go to a facility because the permits aren't right? That's news to me. What about you all? A mayor of a city. So you're operating a business and you don't have proper permits. Usually the person who does that is an inspector, some no-name person who none of us has ever heard of. They show up with their badge and their certification. They say, hey, I'm the inspector from the state or from the city or from the county. I'm here to do a check on what you're doing in your business. And you pretty much by law have to let them in, and they do their inspection. And if you don't have proper paperwork or you're not doing certain things right, they give you citations. They tell you got to fix this. And depending on how the egregiousness of what you need to fix, they might be able to shut your facility down, or they might just say you got to do these things and get it fixed by next week when I come back, or they give you a fine and you got to fix these things, whatever. This happens in the restaurant business all the time. Someone comes in with an unannounced inspection. Sometimes they announce it, sometimes they don't announce it. They come in with the inspection, they check everything. Your shelves got to be a certain number of inches off the floor. You can't be having food gathered over here. You got to throw out the trash this way. And if you're violating, they tell you what the violations are, and they say, we're going to come back in a week to check. Sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. And they're doing that just to keep you on point. Or they'll even say, hey, we got to shut your restaurant down for 24 hours until you fix this. Or until you fix it, your restaurant shut down. That happens in extreme cases, depending on the relationship you have with the inspector. The point is, the person who does the inspection is some no-name person with a job as an inspector, not the damn mayor of the city. The fact that the mayor of the city went and did this tells me that this is political theater. The mayor of the city is not doing this job. That's not their job. That's the reason why the inspector is the inspector. That's literally their job to do that. Why is the mayor there? Why are you there, mayor? You should be doing higher level work. In the entrepreneurial world, we call this working in the business rather than working on the business. The reason that there are inspectors so that the mayor does not have to do this job. The mayor did this and brought a whole bunch of people with him and told all the news and the camera people to come here and see this because he knew exactly what he was doing. How many of you agree with that? I think this mayor knew exactly what he was doing. Does not make him a bad person. All it makes him is a politician. And in politics, I've told y'all this over and over and over again for the last 8 months. Politicians lie for a living. They will play around with the truth. They will massage the truth, and they will tell you whatever version they need to tell you of a situation so it can play positively for them politically, because this is how you get attention. And when you get attention, you get supporters. And when you get supporters, you get them to go vote. And when you get votes, you win elections. And when you win elections, you keep your job. This is the business. That's the business model of politics in the United States of America. It is not about helping you. It's not about serving you. It's not about making things better for the citizens. It's about what do I need to do as a politician to make sure I keep winning elections. Because if I keep winning elections, I get to keep my job. That's the business. All right, same way all of you need to do things to keep your job, they got to do things to keep their job. So I'm not mad at them for this. I'm not mad at politicians for doing what they do. I'm just pointing out what the hustle is so that none of you is ever fooled into believing that a politician is out there working for you. They're not working for you. They're working for themselves. Period. That's how politics work. Again, in the United States of America, this is the game. Any of you didn't know, now you know. Now, what's a pushback to this side that Baraka said, Mayor Baraka, that he was in doing some type of inspection? Again, it doesn't even add up. But federal authorities say that he and his group, Mayor Ross Baraka of Newark, New Jersey, they trespassed on private property and they ignored requests to leave, which makes the arrest legally justified. I would say, if I just had to guess, again, I wasn't there, I would guess that this is probably what happened. That they trespassed on the property, they brought a bunch of people with them, and they're getting all out, and this mayor's a black guy, and they got all these different cards that they can play of these, look at these bad people doing bad things to us, and these ICE people, and they're racist, and they're xenophobic, and they're trying to go against all the things that we're about. And again, this is liberal versus conservative. That's all this actually is. I believe, if I just had to guess, what do I think the truth of the situation is, that he trespassed on purpose. knowing it was going to happen, knowing nothing bad was going to happen to him if he got arrested, and this will all be part of his. This just goes into his. This goes into his media packet. This goes into his media kit of why I'm a great guy, and he's probably going to go. I would bet Mayor Baraka is going to go on a media press tour for the next week based on what just happened. How many of you think that's going to happen? Put yes or no. That Mayor Ross Baraka of Newark, New Jersey is going to go on a media press tour over the next 7 to 10 days based on what happened on Friday. He's either going to get interviewed by people who support what he did, and he's going to get talked bad about by people who disagree with what he did. Either way, he gets a whole bunch of attention for himself. That's the game. This is a well played, this is a well executed strategy by Mayor Ross Baraka. Even though I think what he did is disingenuous, it has nothing to do with helping you. You live in Newark, New Jersey. You should be disappointed about what he did. I can look at it and laugh at it and appreciate his hustle because I don't live in Newark, New Jersey, so I don't give a damn what he does. But if you live in Newark, New Jersey, you should be kind of pissed off about what he did because he is using your tax dollars and the time that you hired him to work on. He's on the clock for you. And while he's supposed to be doing some actual work to help you, what is he actually doing? He's trying to help himself. This is the problem with politics, amongst many other things. Continuing. Mayor Ross Baraka, and I'm going to take questions and comments at the end, by the way. Those of you wondering if I'm going to take questions and comments, I will. So Mayor Ross Baraka was joined by congressional reps suggesting the visit was an official oversight action, not a random protest, which should give it legitimacy under their elected roles. I disagree with this. They say that he brought congressional reps with him, which means that's some way of proving that it was an official oversight action. Again, if it's an official oversight action and you send the people who actually do the oversight job, now maybe that's part of their jobs, but you have an inspector. You have inspectors. They can just show up and they can do the same thing. Hey, this place got to be shut down. Now, I didn't hear anybody say that an inspector showed up, a no-name inspector, the person who actually has the job of inspector. I didn't hear anybody say that an inspector showed up 3 days before or the day before and said, hey, y'all don't have this, this, and this, so you can't operate this business. So what do they mean that they're doing their official oversight action? Now, one thing could be possible. I gotta also give them the benefit of the doubt. It could be possible that the ICE facility wouldn't even let the inspectors in, and they just ignored the inspector because they're a private business, and they said, we ain't letting you in, inspector. So the congressional reps and the mayor had to show up with a little bit more oomph, and they got a little bit more pull so that they forced the situation. They forced the hand of the ICE facility by having the mayor show up. That is a possibility. So we do have to give them that point. While at the same time, I think if that was really the thing and they really, really wanted to shut the thing down, okay, that you got to give them that point. And at the same time, here's what I'd say is that when it comes to inspections and things like this, any of you who runs a business where you have an inspector show up and they look at your stuff, this is all game. Again, it sounds good to say that's the reason why it happened, but any of you know the game. Any of you run a business, ever worked in a business that has inspectors show up and people from the state or the county or whatever show up, the health department and all that. All of this is based on whether you get shut down or not, get citations or not, or becomes a news story or not, is all based on your relationship with the person coming to do the inspection. You got a good relationship with them. You could have 10 violations and it's not going to become news. And if they hate you, you can have one minor violation and they will make it seem like you're poisoning the country. That's the way the game works. Any of you know anything about that game? That's the way the game works. All this guy is doing is hyping this up to draw attention to himself. That's where I stand. But let me continue. Now, ICE, the Customs Enforcement folks, and Department of Homeland Security, DHS, that's headed by Kristi Noem right now, they maintain that elected status does not excuse bypassing federal protocols or ignoring security procedures inside detention facilities. This is true. Let me say it again. So ICE and DHS say that just because you are an elected official, such as the mayor or the governor or even the president, that does not mean that you can bypass federal protocols and ignore security procedures inside of a detention facility. Now, let's talk about this and let's flip this around. Let's say that Donald Trump wanted to go into a detention facility and he didn't want to follow the proper protocols, and somehow, some way that detention facility was being run by someone, or it was under the umbrella, of a liberal administration. What would they say if Donald Trump tried to do that? Of course, you know what they would say. The same thing that the opposite of what's being said about Ross Baraka. They would have said, look at Donald Trump not following the rules. Just because you're president does not mean that you can just run over top of the system of checks and balances, that there are procedures that need to be followed here. You can't just do whatever you want to do just because you're the president. You don't have a blank check. Just do whatever you want to do. Isn't that what everybody's saying about Donald Trump right now? All the lawfare is being used to stop him and his administration from enacting all the policies that they want to put in place. Isn't that exactly what they're saying? Donald Trump is just trying to do all these things without being held accountable. There's a process that has to be followed. That's why they keep taking him to court. That's why they keep trying to shut down everything he's doing. That's why they keep trying to protest against everything he does. You can't just do whatever you want to do just because you're the president. Is that not what they're saying about Donald Trump? So how is it that the mayor of Newark, New Jersey can go try to do the same thing as a mayor? He ain't even the president. As a mayor, he's trying to do the same thing, but all of a sudden he's a victim. All of a sudden. Do I have this wrong? If I have this logically wrong, somebody have to let me know. Logically, this is not wrong. If Trump was doing it, they would say, oh, look at Trump. Once again, trying to run over top of the system and run over top of the rules and run over top of checks and balances. But when this guy does it, all of a sudden, the system is wrong. He's not wrong. The system is wrong because he's doing what he's doing. All right, there are protocols. There are protocols for and security procedures inside of a detention facility. You can't just walk into a detention facility just because of who you are. All right, you got to follow the rules just like everybody else. That facility is high security for a reason. Now, again, granted, if Donald Trump went to that facility and said, just let me in, and he didn't want to follow the security protocols, if the people who work there, who are running the gates, said, or they have a positive view of Donald Trump, they would probably let him in and let him do whatever he wants, despite the fact that he didn't follow the procedures. Is this true? Yes, that's very true. Now, if they didn't like him, this kind of thing would happen. So again, as I told you, this is political with a lowercase p. That's the way it works when it comes to procedures and rules. And all of you have had experiences in your life where you were dealing with someone who was a gatekeeper in some way. They're in charge of the procedures and rules and enforcing them. And they really didn't like you for whatever reason, or they were just a jerk for whatever reason. And they made your day or your process for getting some official business done very difficult simply because they were a jerk, or they didn't like you, or they were racist or sexist or whatever they were. And they just junked up the whole situation. All of you had that happen before, right? Because you just deal with a person who was a jerk, or maybe you were a jerk to them. We don't know, whatever the situation was. Everyone has experienced that. At the same time, all of you have also experienced dealing with someone who they have that same power. They're the gatekeeper. They're the person who can stop you based on checks and balances. And here's our procedure and here's our policy, et cetera, et cetera. And because they had a favorable opinion of you, they overlooked the rules that they were supposed to be enforcing against you because you were clearly not quite within the lines that you were supposed to be in. But because they like you, they went and did something for you anyway and let you get away with it. And all of you have had both experiences, right? Everyone here has had both experiences. I told the story of how I had a check that I had gotten from, I'd done a brand deal. This is years ago in my basketball days. Did a brand deal with Finish Line. They sent me a check, and I had the only banks I had at the time were like those digital banks. It's not a real facility. So I wanted to cash the check, but I couldn't put the check into my digital bank because the check was too big. It was bigger than the normal. They accepted cash deposit. Like if you deposit a check, you couldn't deposit a check that was more than like $3,500. The check was for more than that. So I needed to take it to a bank and actually cash the check. So I took it to a bank in Sunny Isles Beach, Miami Beach, Sunny Isles Beach, which is heavily, a lot of people from our country live in there. And I walked in and there was this older woman who was clearly from the our country. And she was just being a complete bitch to me and was not trying to help me. And she was like, well, you put this number on the back. And technically, because you put that number on the back, we're not allowed to cash the check. So sorry, I can't help you. She was just being a bitch. She could have did it, but she didn't want to do it. I didn't argue with her. I said, cool. I went to a different location of the exact same bank. And there was a young white guy working at the counter. And he saw the check. And he saw who it was from. And he's not even supposed to do this, but he started asking me questions about how I got the check. He's not supposed to ask that question. But he asked anyway, because I guess he felt like there was some rapport there. And I told him, yeah, I play basketball and I'm an influencer and I'm on YouTube and I got all these basketball videos. So I did a brand deal with them and that's how I got it. He said, oh, I'm going to look you up on YouTube. He looked up my YouTube while he was on his phone at the counter. And he turned around the back of the check. The same thing that the other woman from the Sunny Isles Beach said, we can't do anything because that's on there. He looked at it, he grabbed the pen, he crossed it out and he cashed the check. What's the difference? Nothing. Policy is exactly the same. Only difference is the woman at Sunny Isles Beach didn't like me, and the guy at this place, I think I was in Fort Lauderdale, he did like me. That's the only difference. They both had the same policy that they were supposed to be enforcing, and I guarantee you that woman And Sunny Isles Beach, if someone who she liked came in, she would have cashed a check. And if that white guy in Fort Lauderdale, someone he didn't like came in, he would have came up with the same excuse that the woman came up with. Here's the point, folks, that this is all political. And this is lowercase p political. That when people like you, they will let you get away with shit. And when people don't like you, they'll enforce every rule. They'll even make up rules just to block you and stop you from doing what you want to do. This is how life works. This is not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just life. This is how shit works. So let's continue. The arrest appears to be politically motivated, as we already established. Yes, it is. Barack is potentially a gubernatorial candidate. Most of the time when someone is potentially a candidate to run for something, usually they end up running, or they at least try. And he's an outspoken critic of federal immigration policies. Now, who could have guessed that? Ras Baraka is an outspoken critic of federal immigration policies. So it makes perfect sense that he shows up to an immigration facility and stirs up some drama and gets himself arrested in the process. This is perfect. This is perfectly executed by Ras Baraka to the point that, look, I'm even talking about it. This is excellent job by Ras Baraka and whoever on his team came up with the idea. Hey, let's create some controversy around you so that people get all excited and everybody's talking about you. And the people who don't like you are trashing you. So your name is out there. And the people who do like you are praising and defending you. Either way, your name is out there. Either way, you win. They talk shit about you, you win. They praise you, you win. CNN wants you on there, you win. You're going to get to be on a bunch of podcasts, you win. Your name is trending on Google, you win. All right, no matter what happens, you won. All right, great job, Mayor Ras Baraka of Newark, New Jersey. This worked. All right, this worked. And this is what you got to do in politics. This is how it works. It's like a boxing match. When two boxers are supposed to fight, if they're too respectful of each other and they're too nice to each other and they're shaking hands at every press conference, that's a boring fight. Even if they're both great fighters, nobody's going to buy tickets for the pay-per-view. Why? Nobody's going to fly to Vegas to go see the fight. Why? Because there's nothing interesting or intriguing about it unless you happen to be a diehard boxing fan. But if you go talk shit about the other person, you talk about them personally, you attack their kids, you talk about their wife, you attack the country that they're from, you stage a fight at the weigh-in, and you know how they do the boxers do the face-offs, and then you push the guy, and then the other guy swings at you, and everybody's jumping in to break it up. All of that shit is made up fighting. All that shit is wrestling. That's WWF. Now, why do they do it though? Bernard Hopkins did it. Floyd Mayweather did it a lot. Why do they all do that? They do that because it gets everybody excited. It gets the average person who doesn't even care about boxing excited to go buy a ticket to the fight or to go watch the fight on pay-per-view just because you want to see Floyd Mayweather lose because he talks too much shit. You want to see Conor McGregor lose because he's too cocky. Why do you care? There are fighters who are – I don't even watch MMA, but any of y'all who's an MMA fan, are there fighters out there who are just basically better than Conor McGregor at fighting than you MMA fighter? I heard somebody say it, so let me confirm. Any of you who watch MMA, were there fighters out there who were just straight up just better fighters than Conor McGregor? Yes or no? Now, when it comes to Floyd, he was pretty damn good. Floyd was undefeated. Boxing, I understand a lot better than MMA. I don't even watch MMA. But I heard people say that there were a lot of fighters out there who were better than Conor McGregor. But if you ask me to name some MMA fighters, I can name Conor McGregor. I can't name too many others. The reason why I can name Conor McGregor is not because I watch MMA and not necessarily because he's the best, but because he had the most name recognition. He had the most brand recognition. How do you get the brand recognition? Is it just by just being good? Not really, because there's a lot of boxers who are really good whose names most of you do not know because there was nothing exciting about them that made people who are not diehard boxing fans ever pay attention to them. You understand? And this is the way it works in politics, the same way it works in marketing, the same way it works in anything, is that you got to stir up some attention somehow, some way. And as a general rule, negative attention travels faster and further and stays longer than positive attention. So if Floyd Mayweather came out and made everybody love him and be happy about him, he would not be who he is. The fact that he made a bunch of people hate him and hate watch his fights, hoping that he lost, is what made him who he was. It wasn't just because he was good at boxing. There's a lot of good boxers who's, again, nobody knows him because they weren't able to draw the attention. McGregor, same thing. There's a lot of fighters like in McGregor's line who are maybe better fighters than him or just as good. Nobody knows their names because they weren't able to stir up the attention and made people who do not focus on that thing to talk about them. So the reason Ras Baraka was successful in what he did is because I'm talking about him. I don't live in New Jersey. I don't live in Newark. I don't really care about what a mayor is doing in any town other than the town in which I live, and I'm talking about him. All right, that is success, period. So DHS claims that this protest disrupted operations and endangered safety for both detainees and agents, and it justified a law enforcement response. I think DHS is probably telling you the truth. Now, endangered safety? Probably not. But again, that's kind of policy language that you can use. You're endangering safety by not following our protocol. So they have a legitimate argument in that. And again, who is DHS? There's no face of the other side. So what reason do they have to make it seem like something other than what it is, one point you could put on their side. Now, the arrest of a mayor, back to the other side, the arrest of a sitting mayor during what they call a quote unquote peaceful protest sends a chilling message about suppressing dissent and overreach by federal power. All right, this is what you're going to see on social media all day today. Or you might have saw it over the weekend if you were paying attention back when this happened, when it went viral over the weekend. The arrest of a sitting mayor during a peaceful protest. All right, first of all, just because you are doing a peaceful protest does not mean you are doing a legal protest. Legal protest and peaceful protest are two different things. Just because you are peaceful does not mean what you're doing is okay. If I peacefully walk into Walgreens and steal a Snickers bar and a bottle of soda and a Coke, and I just peacefully walk out the store, I still broke the law by stealing. Just because it's peaceful does not mean it's okay. So peaceful is one of those words that people use as a way of softening what they did to kind of sway the conversation, because most people don't think critically about what they hear. If someone hears the word peaceful, they're immediately thinking, okay, the person wasn't doing anything wrong. Right? That's what it triggers in your mind emotionally, subconsciously. You couldn't have been doing anything wrong because you were peaceful. No, you can be peaceful and break the law. I could peacefully pull out a gun and take your life away. All right, does that mean it's okay? Because I did it peacefully as opposed to doing it angrily? I still did the same thing. So calling it a peaceful protest means absolutely nothing. All right, this is useless language, but you're going to see this all throughout the day if people are still talking about this Ross Baraka thing. Oh, it was a peaceful protest. So what? So what if it was a peaceful protest? Was it against the law? That means you get arrested and you go to jail. And what is being said is that it sends a chilling message. This is, again, you're going to see this on social. A chilling message about suppressing dissent and overreach by federal power. Okay. Suppressing dissent. First of all, everyone's allowed to dissent. This is the reason why we had the First Amendment. And everyone's allowed to gather peacefully if you so wish. But gathering peacefully does not mean you can break the law in the process of that peaceful gathering. That's the context that is left out. And when you say suppressing dissent, what do you mean by suppressing dissent? Again, this is all this tricky language that really smart people with advanced degrees use to try to sway your emotions and overpower your logic when it comes to certain subjects. They've been doing this for the last 100 years, but it's become much more pronounced over the last 10 years because we all can get on social media and we can get it right there and from the comfort of our couches and the comfort of your bed, having people program this into your mind, as opposed to 25 years ago when you at least had to turn the damn TV on and listen in order to get it. Now you ain't got to do that. You just got to pick up your phone and they're giving it right to you. So it's become more pronounced now. And these people, even though you may disagree with them, don't think that they're not smart. These people are very smart. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly how to manipulate most people. And this stuff works. The reason why I'm talking about it as a kind of counterbalance to their nonsense is because it works. It has influenced a whole lot of people. And I'm sure some of you listening to this right now are pushing back against what I'm saying because, hey, it was a peaceful protest, right? Well, I'll just explain that. Well, they're just suppressing dissent. Maybe. It depends on what the dissent is. What is the nature of the dissent? Is the dissent legal? And do I have a right to suppress it? Again, it's like if somebody tries to break into my home and I suppress their break-in by kicking their ass or pulling out a weapon and taking their life. Am I justified in doing that? In the state of Florida, yes, I am. So sometimes suppressing dissent is a good idea. Just because someone's suppressing dissent does not mean that they're doing something wrong. Again, this is the tricky language, manipulative, emotionally triggering language that people use on one side of a conversation to make it seem like it's one thing when it's actually another thing. So this is something that, because I was looking this up actually on, what day was this? I think it was last Friday. And it was on a different subject. But I was trying to figure this out because people always do this. And I was asking myself, I actually asked ChatGPT and it told me exactly what it is. I said, what is the fallacy? Because I'm really good at pointing out logical fallacies. I'm just a very logical thinker. Any of you ever get to know me or you watch enough of my material, you'll find that this is just the way I think. And I said, there has to be a name because I like to put labels on things. When you can label something, it's much easier to notice it and point it out when there's a label. So I said, what is it? Because this has to be a thing. When someone is doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, and then you call them out for what they're doing, and then they defend themselves by saying, oh, I was just, and then they say that they're doing something that's really innocent. You know, you ever had somebody do that? So someone's doing something wrong. You point it out like, yo, stop doing that. And then they say, oh, I was just And the thing they said they were just doing is something that sounds really, really innocent that makes it sound like you are the bad guy for calling them out on their bullshit. You ever had anybody do that? So this is called, so I didn't know there was a name for it. So I looked it up. It's called the Mott and Bailey fallacy. So this is a new one. I knew about the fallacy, but I didn't know it had a title. So it's called the Mott and Bailey fallacy, and people do this all the time. So let's say, for example, you have somebody, let's say you have a house, right? And I was walking the other day and I saw this house that had a lot of grass outside the house, and people walked past it and had all these signs in the grass that said, do not let your dog piss in our grass. Use your yard, don't use ours. So there's a whole bunch of signs because they probably got pissed off of people letting their dogs piss and poop in your grass. So let's just say I got a house and I see a dog pissing in my grass, and I open the window or I go outside and I say to the dog owner, hey, get your dog out of my grass. Don't let your dog poop in my grass. And they say, oh, I was just walking my dog. What's your problem? I'm just walking my dog. Right? Aren't I allowed to be outside? That's the Mott and Bailey fallacy. Because the thing that I'm pointing out is that you're letting your dog piss in my grass, which I have a right to have a problem with. And you're trying to defend it by saying, oh, I'm just walking my dog, as if you're doing something innocent. This is what we call the Mott and Bailey fallacy. When people say, oh, well, it was just a peaceful protest. So what? Doesn't mean it's legal. Or they say, well, you're suppressing dissent. So what? I'm allowed to suppress dissent if you're going against the rules of my facility. So again, you got to be very careful about this because people will manipulate you out of your mind if you don't notice the bullshit. And many of you have already been manipulated and don't even realize it. So they say it's overreach of federal power. Maybe. Define overreach. There's only overreach if they're going outside of their actual rules and limits and restrictions. And according to what I've read so far about the story, it doesn't seem that they did. I think that Ross was doing exactly what he knew he was doing, and he knew exactly how to frame this. So again, well done by him. Now, ICE says this was not a peaceful visit. So they said it was a peaceful protest. ICE says this was not peaceful. And from what I saw in the video, did y'all see the video? It didn't look peaceful to me. It looked like Ross and his team, his supporters, they showed up looking to kind of rabble rouse here. They were looking to make a fuss. They were looking to stir things up. They brought the cameras with them because they knew they wanted to get a viral moment. And it worked. That's what they were looking to do. Everybody got what they wanted out of this situation. All right, Ross was looking to stir shit up. He knew he was going to get arrested. He wanted to get arrested. He wanted to get the mugshot. He wanted to get the headline. He got it. And ICE, well, I guess they didn't get what they wanted. They probably would have been better being left alone. They probably would have preferred to be left alone on this day. But they went and got him arrested because he wasn't supposed to be doing what he did. So they say this wasn't peaceful. ICE says this was not peaceful. And they said that the folks, Ross and his guys and girls, they were making physical contact with officers. That's what it looked like in the video. I'll play the video so y'all can see it, which if confirmed will make it more than just protests. And that's what I think at. It looked like they were doing this on purpose. Let me see if I can find the video. So those of y'all who didn't see it, I can pull this up so y'all can see this guy, Ras Baraka. So I saw this video. So look at this. Oh, is that him? No, that's not. Is that him? Yeah, it is him. So 2 days ago, here's Ras Baraka. Look where he is. CNN talking to Caitlin Collins. Didn't I tell y'all this was going to happen? So he's already on CNN. That 2 days, 1 day after it happened, already on TV. So let me see if I can find the video when he actually got arrested. So when he got released, there was a crowd of people chanting "Power to the people." So again, all right, this is all. So this is the video of him when he got out of jail. He gets dropped off in a black car getting out of jail. And here are his fans who happen to know he was getting out of jail. So y'all tell me, all right, was this all planned or not? Looks like it was to me. So Ras Baraka tried to break in. So this is libs of TikTok. Said Ross just tried to break into a detention center housing. All right. So let's see this. I usually watch videos on 2X. I can. So the facility is locked. And he got the cameras there. So we all came today, collectively, make them let us into this place today. They're saying that they have to wait for ICE to give them permission, which is not true. Right, the ICE doesn't have to give them permission. So he's trying to get in. I'm looking for the protest part. So this is just some. Uh, so they got these old. So they got these old white women chanting. So they found a bunch of retired white women to come and chant because they ain't got nothing better to do. All right, and now here's the part of him getting arrested. So this is all right. That's pretty. And then he's on a press tour again. He goes on a press tour as soon as this ends. I told you all exactly what was going to happen. There's a tried and true playbook in politics. This is exactly what you got to do. So let's continue. So this situation highlights the questionable role of private prisons operations because this facility is privately owned, even though it's federally regulated, but it's privately owned. So this company, the Geo Group, they profit from incarceration and they often avoid public accountability. I would say, so what? That's my answer to that. Okay, so the Geo Group owns this private ICE facility that, again, is they're doing things for the federal government, so that's where they get their money, but it's a privately owned business. So there's a whole bunch of privately owned business to get federal money. So how is that? That's not a bad thing. And they say that it's a questionable role a private prison operator has. So a lot of people have a problem with a lot of prisons being privatized because prisons make money by the more people they have inside the facility. My pushback to that is the only way somebody ends up in prison is that you did something that the government deemed gets you incarcerated. It's not like if I own let's say I opened a prison. I opened a prison in Miami. I opened the Brickell prison. All right, so I open up a prison. Just because I opened a prison does not mean I can make anybody be sentenced to incarceration. You still have to do something to get you arrested, to get you in court, and then you got to end up getting convicted to end up in jail. So even if I own a jail, only way my jail can make money is if you or if somebody else does something that gets them in jail. I can't make you go to jail just because I own a jail. It's like if I own a McDonald's, I can't make you want a Big Mac. Or you still got to come in the store and buy it. So yeah, you can be mad at me for running a business that you disagree with, but if nobody bought what I was selling, then I would go out of business. Same way you might not like girls selling their ass on OnlyFans. Well, if nobody was buying it, then they wouldn't be selling it. First of all, economics is supply and demand. So privately owned prisons are not necessarily inherently bad just because they're privately owned prisons. There could be a bunch of privately owned prisons that are empty because nobody's going in them because they have no customers. They have no customers because nobody ain't doing any crime. If there was no crime, there'd be no reason for a privately owned prison, or they would just be sitting there collecting dust. They're not collecting dust because people keep breaking the law and going back to jail. So who you mad at? The criminal or the prison? I'm blaming the criminal. I ain't blaming the prison. I'll tell you a story. It was a Charles Barkley book. I think it was, what's the name of that book? I think it's Who's Afraid of a Large Black Man. I think it's one of the books he wrote with Michael Wilbon. I think they wrote more than one. And Charles was telling the story of how he heard Jesse Jackson saying this. This back when Jesse was active and he was not doing all the race hustling. This back when Jesse Jackson, those of y'all who are old enough to remember, Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton used to call out black people for their behavior. They used to. They don't do that anymore. So those of you who are younger, if you're under the age of 30, you have no idea that this is real. It really happened. Ask your grandma. She'll tell you. Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton used to call out black people for their behavior. So Jesse Jackson was at a prison once speaking, you go to speak to the prisoners. So Jesse was speaking to prisoners and he said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to shut this prison down. And all the prisoners were getting all excited. Yeah, Jesse, shut it down. He said, all right, here's how I'm going to shut it down. Let me tell you my plan. He said, as soon as all of you finish your sentences and you get out of jail, don't ever do anything else that's going to get you back in here again. And everybody in the room kind of got quiet when they understood exactly what he was saying. What he was doing was holding the mirror up to them and saying, mofos, the reason there's a jail here is because y'all keep doing stuff to get you in jail. Not because the jail all of a sudden made you go to jail. All right, there's jails everywhere. I ain't in jail. You're not in jail. Your mom ain't in jail. Your sister's not in jail. Your coworkers ain't in jail. Why are all of us free, even though there are all these jails out here and they are private and they are for-profit prisons? You can be for-profit whatever you want. If I don't do anything that causes me to engage with what you're doing, then it cannot affect me. So this whole concept of privately owned prisons, people talk about privately owned prisons as if the existence of them in and of themselves is somehow a bad idea. The answer is no, it's not. Yeah, You may not like OnlyFans. You don't like girls showing their ass and selling it for money. Okay. Don't click on the links. All right, what's the problem? That's it. If you don't click on the links, then there's no problem. And if everybody else followed it, there'd be no business for them. And they would have to go do something else, like go work at Walmart. All right, that'd be it. That's the game. So the GEO Group operates under a federal contract. I just explained that to you. A lot of people have federal contracts. And as such, the facility is considered under federal jurisdiction, making local interference problematic under the law. Again, the facility is a federal facility. So you, as the local mayor, you do not have the jurisdiction to just walk in and say, well, let me see. You ain't got the power. This is a federal facility. You the mayor. You're local. You got a local buzz, mayor. This is a federal buzz. So what are you doing? He knew, again, this is my position is he knew exactly what he was doing. This is all planned out perfectly and executed very well. Now, Mayor Baraka of Newark, New Jersey, he claims nobody told him to leave and that he was invited, raising questions about whether this was actually trespassing or unlawful arrest. He said he was invited. Okay, invited by who? Name names. Mayor Baraka. I ain't heard him say nobody's name. Who invited him to come to the facility? Say their name. I mean, he's on CNN. He's on all these news networks after this happened. Say the name of the person who invited you to come to the facility. Say their name. Now, and again, let's also be careful with the tricky language. If someone invites you somewhere, that doesn't mean you can just go anywhere in that place and do whatever you want to do. It's like if I invite you to come to my house, that doesn't mean you can go sleep in my bed with your shoes on. And it doesn't mean you can go on my refrigerator and take whatever food you want. Yes, I invited you to my house. It doesn't mean you can just do whatever you want. Again, tricky language. Y'all got to be careful with this because, again, people will run circles around you if you don't notice their bullshit. So he said he was invited. Yeah, maybe they invited you to come stand outside the gate like he was and look at it. Yeah, come look at the gate. You want to see what we're doing? The gate's going to be locked, Mayor, but you can show up. You're invited to come look from the outside looking in and take your pictures and make a little video and get on social media. Like AOC, remember AOC with she was supposed to be at the camps, the kids in cages camps. Remember she was in an all white outfit and she was fake crying at the kids in cages. You can come stand there. Yeah, you come stand outside the gate. You're invited. Yes, you're invited. That don't mean you can come in. Doesn't mean we're going to let you in. It doesn't mean we got to let you do anything. So again, be careful of the tricky language. He said he was invited and nobody told him to leave. Well, actually, nobody has to tell you to leave if you never trespassed in the first place. So how did he actually start getting in the gate? As soon as you come in the gate, if there's a sign that says you're not allowed in here without proper documentation and you come in, are you already trespassed? Nobody has to actually say anything. They can just grab you up and arrest you because you already violated by stepping across the line. If it says no trespassing, it's like if somebody has a sign outside of their house that says no trespassing, don't walk on my grass or don't come inside my fence, and you walk inside the fence and then they punch you in the mouth, do they have to tell you to get from inside the fence before they punch you in the mouth? Not all the time. You already violated because you saw the sign. The sign said don't do that. Then you did it. Okay, now you got punched in the mouth. You had to be warned first. The sign warned you. The sign says don't come in here. You violated the sign. And that's the reason why signs had to be posted in places. All right, so ICE says there were repeated verbal warnings. So ICE is saying they did tell him, get out, and he refused to comply. They were left no choice but to detain him based on the law because he was not listening to what he was being told. Now, I think this is going to become a he said situation. I don't know if there's footage of any of this stuff, and it really doesn't matter. In the big picture, it doesn't matter. I mean, as he said, this person said that. If it's not recorded, and in the end, it's not like he's going to jail or nothing. Baraka ain't going to jail. He got detained, and who knows? Maybe he'll pay a fine. He ain't going to pay shit. He's the mayor. Now, he can get rid of anything he wants to get rid of. Again, political theater, folks. This is what you signed up for when you became an American citizen or you were born here. The pro. This incident exposes the ongoing disconnect between federal immigration enforcement, ICE, and local community leadership, especially in sanctuary cities. Oh, so is Newark, New Jersey a sanctuary city? Now it's starting to make a little bit more sense. Anybody know about that? Newark, New Jersey. Is it a sanctuary city? Now, this I didn't even know. Is Newark, New Jersey a sanctuary city for immigrants? I'm asking ChatGPT. Now, some people ask me when I use ChatGPT. It doesn't mean I listen to everything they say, but I will accept them on certain things. So they say, yes, Newark, New Jersey is officially recognized as a sanctuary city. In July of 2017, Mayor Ras Baraka, he's been around for a while, he signed a comprehensive executive order for the city, affirming Newark's commitment to protecting undocumented immigrants from aggressive federal enforcement actions. This policy, known as the Fair and Welcoming City Initiative, quote unquote, restricts local law enforcement from inquiring about individuals' immigration status and limits cooperation with federal immigration authorities, except in cases involving serious criminal offenses. Furthering solidifying this stance, New Jersey's Attorney General issued the Immigrant Trust Directive, which established the state as a sanctuary jurisdiction, the entire state of New Jersey. This limits the involvement of state and local law enforcement in federal immigration activities, aiming to foster trust between immigrant communities and local authorities. Despite these policies, Newark has faced challenges from federal authorities. In May of 2025, we just talked about that. So this is as unconstitutional as it gets, as far as I'm concerned. Sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. So the government has said, actually, we already understand this. The government established rules and laws when it comes to immigration. They say if you want to come into this country and migrate here or live here or even be here, there's proper documentation you need to have. All of us generally understand we have rules and laws on the books when it comes to immigration, just as every other country in the world does. And what certain states have decided, and they did this mostly as a pushback against Trump, because this was in July 2017. So who was the president then? Trump. So as a pushback to Trump, a bunch of cities announced, we are a sanctuary city, which means what? What it basically means is if you are here and you do not have proper documentation, come to our city. We are going to generally, but I guess you could say, protect you in one way. And the way they're protecting them is by the following, because the mayor doesn't control federal jurisdictions. He can't tell Tom Homan what to do. Tom Homan, the border czar, he took the title himself, border czar. What the mayor is saying of sanctuary cities, they're saying you can come to our city, and the way we're going to protect you is if the federales come around, the feds come around looking for people like you, we are not going to have our local law enforcement, like the cops, help them find you. Basically, we're not going to do anything to assist them in doing their jobs, and we're actually just going to be hands off. And usually, what they're not saying, this is the part that they're not saying, we're going to do our best to get in the way and slow them down from being able to find people like you. That's what a sanctuary city, when someone announces they're a sanctuary city, that's pretty much what they're saying. We are going to not help the federal authorities find you. We are going to tell our local authorities, the local police, to not try to find you or identify you. And if the federal authorities come in and go to the local cops and say, help us find this person, the local cops are instructed by law to not help. So, in other words, if you're an undocumented citizen, your best chance of sticking around and not getting caught is to come to our location. And they go, and the mayors go announce this. We are a sanctuary city. Hey, come over here. Mayor Eric Adams in New York, he did this. Ross Baraka, Jersey, clearly, he did it. This is what they're doing. Now, imagine, again, look at the way people talk about Trump. Imagine if the roles were reversed. And Donald Trump was saying, hey, let's say that the liberals wanted to bring all undocumented immigrants out. They wanted to get rid of them. Let's say the liberals wanted to get rid of all undocumented immigrants, and the conservatives and the MAGA wanted to keep them. And Donald Trump announced, you know what? We're going to be a sanctuary country. So we are not going to send any of our federal agents to go find anybody who's undocumented. And anybody locally who is found to be undocumented by the local cops in a city like New York or Newark, New Jersey, and they call us and say, hey, send the feds to get this person out of here and deport them, we're not going to do it. We're just not going to enforce those rules. I signed an executive order. We're not going to enforce any of those rules. Imagine if Donald Trump did that and the people on the liberal side wanted to get rid of undocumented, and he said, we're not going to do it. We're not going to send any of our resources to help you do that. There would be complete uproar. There'd be pandemonium in a negative way about this. But because now they flipped it around, and this is looked at as some type of, I guess it's looked at as heroic. When we have laws on the books that says, if you're going to be here in this country, there are certain rules you have to follow and certain documentation you have to have. And people are just saying, we are not going to follow the rules. We're going to tell our local authorities to not help you enforce the actual laws that we have here as a country. And this is looked at as like some type of heroism. Are you serious? How is this heroism? Again, just because you're going against Donald Trump. I mean, that's the answer. The answer is it's looked at as heroic because they're going against Donald Trump. And there are people who are so emotionally triggered over the concept of Donald Trump, the very presence of this man, that anything that goes against what he says is looked at as a good thing. Just go, anything he says, just go against it. Donald Trump says drink water. People are going to say just die of thirst, die of dehydration, just because Trump said drink water. Trump says do push-ups. They're going to say no, sit on the couch and don't exercise, just because he said it. It is ridiculous, and people are looking at this like it's a great thing. Logically, this makes no sense whatsoever. But I've already explained to you all that if you are able to touch the emotional centers of a person, then logic goes completely out the window, and you don't need to make any logical points. So, local officials cannot unilaterally decide how federal agencies operate. So they don't have to help necessarily, but they can't tell you what you can do and what you can't do, especially when those agencies are enforcing national immigration law. So this is where Mayor Ras Baraka is wrong. But again, logically he's wrong, but does it actually matter in the big picture that he's logically wrong? Not really, because all the people who are co-signing what he did don't give a damn about logic when it comes to Donald Trump, when it comes to immigration, when it comes to what this guy's doing. It doesn't logically make sense, but who cares? It doesn't really matter. I told you all this over and over again. Those of you who are listening to me for the first time, please listen to what I'm about to tell you. Write this down and stamp it on your forehead. Facts don't matter. I'm not joking. And I'm a very logical individual. I like to break things down in a logical, objective, rational way. I wish this was not true because it would be better for people like me. But it is true. Let me say it again. Facts don't matter. Having all the quote unquote facts on your side does not matter unless you are talking to someone who actually wants the facts. Here's the problem. Most people don't want the facts. What most people want, let me tell you what most people actually want. Most people want to have their emotions assuaged. In other words, they want to hear something that makes them feel good. And then they just need a handful of facts that support the emotion that they already have. They don't need all the facts. They don't want all the facts because all the facts are going to, if you give somebody all the facts, they're going to be disturbed because when you get all the facts, eventually you're going to hear a fact that goes against what you want to emotionally believe. This is how it happens when you get all the facts. You get all the facts of anything, you're not going to be completely happy because you're going to hear something that you disagree with or something that doesn't feel good to you. All people want is to have their emotions massaged, appeased, and they want a handful of facts that justify that emotional feeling. That's humanity. You want to understand how humans operate these days? I just told you. That's it. Facts don't matter. So any of you running around trying to argue with people based on facts, stop it. Stop it. That's old. That's old school. All right, trying to argue about facts is old school. Notice I'm giving you these points, but it's not really about me having the facts. Only time people talk about the facts is when they feel like their point is justified. So they talk about the facts. All right, you have some facts that go against what somebody believes. They will come up with a reason to completely disregard your facts. Has any of you ever had that happen before? Of course you have. Any man in here ever been in an argument with a woman? Okay, that's an example of what happens when you try to bring facts to someone who does not want to hear any facts. All right, so local officials cannot unilaterally decide how a federal agency operates. So again, Ras Baraka is completely in over his skis in this. He is in water that he ain't tall enough to stand in this situation. It doesn't make any sense, but he's trying to do it anyway. And one last point here. The protests and arrests have ignited a larger conversation about civil liberties. That's true. Accountability in detention centers, maybe, not really. And immigrant rights, maybe, not really. And potentially pushing policy reforms. I doubt it. I doubt there are going to be any policy reforms under Trump. There'll be reforms after he's gone if the Democrats win the White House in 2028. But policy reforms right now, no, forget about it. Keep dreaming. If you think there's going to be any policy reforms when it comes to immigration, unless it's going to be stronger rules on immigration, which is Trump signing all those executive orders, that's all he's pretty much doing. So this protest and arrest, again, is united a larger conversation about civil liberties, accountability in detention centers, and immigrant rights. Actually, I'm going to reject all four of these. So it said this whole situation with Ras Baraka, civil liberties, accountability in detention centers, immigrant rights, and policy reforms. I say none of these things actually matter. Now, are those things factually things? Yes. Do they matter? No. I just told you facts don't matter. Are y'all paying attention? Facts don't matter. All that matters here is, let me tell you what does matter, because I don't want to leave you with a void, an open space, a vacuum. All that matters these days is persuasion and influence. That's what matters. Now, if you want to get your point across to another person, you must influence them through persuasion, not through facts. So any of you who has been up to this point going around trying to get people to see things your way by telling them quote unquote facts, please cease and desist immediately. Okay, take this as a cease and desist order from a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. But you know what a cease and desist letter is, and a lawyer sends you a letter and says, hey, you're doing something that violates, don't do that, or we're going to sue you. All right, take this as a cease and desist order that you would get from a lawyer. I am not a lawyer. Stop trying to convince people of anything with facts. It's a waste of time. Resistance is futile, and you will not prove anything. All you're going to do is piss yourself off by trying to convince somebody of something that they don't want to hear. And in the world that we live in today, everyone, this is what you all need to understand. It's very easy to refute any fact because you can go find another fact that pushes back against that fact. Then they can find a fact that pushes yours, and you can find one that pushes theirs. And this is this back and forth game. Now, why is that a thing nowadays? It's a thing nowadays because we can get on the internet and basically create information faster than anybody can consume it. This was not the case 25 years ago. 25 years ago, we had a set of facts. And we could go off those, and we could generally agree to disagree, or just not agree, or see things differently, or we had to all get on the same page because there was a limited, finite set of factual information that we had to work with. Everybody had to go by that. In 2025 and beyond, folks, that is no longer the case, which means no one has to accept any fact if they don't want to. This is the reality. And again, I'm not happy about this. I'm not unhappy about it either. But I wish it was we had a finite set of facts, because then the people who are informed and people who read and think and are critical thinkers would be advanced above everybody else. The fact of the matter is, this is a fact for you, it doesn't matter anymore. Now you got to persuade people. And to persuade someone, you got to meet them where they're at, which might be in a place that has nothing to do with facts. Do y'all understand this? If you want to persuade another person, you may have to go meet them in a place that has nothing to do with what is factually accurate. And if you're not able to do that, you will not be able to get them to see things the way you see them. This is the reason why, bringing all this home, why politicians are liars. What does that have to do with politicians being liars? Because for a politician to win an election, they got to get a bunch of votes. To get a bunch of votes, you got to get a bunch of people to see things the way you see them. And any of you who has any experience dealing with people in general, most people are very ill-informed. They're not very smart. They don't think much. They don't read. They don't understand the facts. So not only do they know what they are, and you got to get some of those people to agree with you. How you gonna do that? You gonna take them to the library, make them read books? All right, good luck. You got to meet them where they're at, which means you might have to play around a little fast and loose with the truth and fast and loose with facts in order to meet people where they're at. If you refuse to do that, you will not be a successful politician in the United States of America. It's impossible. I'll just explain to you why. This is the reason why I don't get in politics, because I don't want to play fast and loose with facts. It's not my natural way of thinking. There are some people who do it. It's just their natural way of talking. They think like it and they talk like it, so it works for them. It just rolls off their tongue. For me, I would have to try to do it. I would have to remember to remember. That's why I'm not a politician. Now, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, all of them, this is natural for them. And notice I'm giving you Republicans and Democrats. This is just natural for them. They do it they were born with this skill. Kamala, not so much. Kamala is not very good at it. That's the reason why she lost. But the rest of them, the ones who won nominations, even if they didn't win the election, John McCain, Mitt Romney, this is just natural. This is just natural ability they have. George H. Bush, Ronald Reagan, go back. This is natural for them. If this is not natural for you, don't get in politics. Bad idea. All right. Everybody understand this? So that being said, we're going to get into the commentary and the questions section here. I do need to take a quick bathroom break. This will take me only 90 seconds. Let's go find, we got a captcha by TikTok. TikTok got these new creative little captchas that look like pieces of art. Look like artwork. Unfortunately. All right, what do we want to listen to? Let's see Democracy Now! Ross Barack. Let's hear what he had to say about his arrest in front of the ICE. I'm going to let y'all listen to this. And so he said, let me see one more thing he said. He said this on X yesterday. So I told you he's going to get about a week of traction out of this. He said, check the tape. The aggression was from the people in mass hiding their identity, and the whole world has seen it. Manufactured truth is still not true. There has to be something incredibly wrong with lying on Mother's Day. All right, so he's already going to the appeal to emotion fallacy, so which tells me that he knows exactly what he's doing. As soon as he goes to this appeal to emotion, manufactured truth is still not truth. There's something incredibly wrong with lying on Mother's Day. What does Mother's Day have to do with any of this? Nothing. But again, this is what he's saying. All right, so let's hear what he had to say when he was on this news network, and then I'm gonna take this bathroom break, and we'll be right back. Get out.
we have a dispute with GO because they're violating city laws, and we are fighting with them in court. And ICE is interfering and interceding in that, unfortunately, without the judges, whatever the judge says, they are doing the opposite of that. I sat on that, sat inside of that fence there for over an hour, and nobody told me to move. Nobody told me to get out. Nobody questioned me. Nobody came up to me and said anything to me. I sat there for a very long time before that agent showed up there. And so it is clearly their intention to escalate and to focus everything on me and to target me, and that's exactly what happened.
Now, I wanted to clarify something, Mayor Baraka. A lot of the news reported that you were arrested during a protest.
Right.
But in fact, you weren't protesting. Can you explain the history of this GEO facility, which wasn't always owned by GEO, and why you say they don't have the proper documentation to hold 1,000 prisoners?
Right. Yeah, I was not protesting, actually. And I could be protesting. I speak to the protesters when I get there. But at the end of the day, the facility used to be a drug rehab center and a halfway house for people that were incarcerated that were coming home, and this was a transition from there to come home. So very short periods of time that they spent there to transition home. They converted it, or the process of trying to convert it into this kind of detention facility, over 1,000 beds in a detention facility. They had a certificate of occupancy 20 years ago. And according to city ordinance, they need an updated certificate of occupancy. In fact, we need annual updates of certificates of occupancy, not 20 years later. We challenged them on that. Our folks showed up before I even came there. We saw.
All right, enough of Mayor Ross Baraka. Y'all can listen to him on your own time. I don't listen to him anymore. I usually listen to stuff on 2x speed. He's talking too slow. But anyway, let's get into the commentary. We'll start over on YouTube, then we'll go to Instagram, and then we'll come to TikTok. O-Dog, but not from Menace, good morning, said, many of these peaceful protests during the civil rights movement were illegal because they didn't file for a permit. Yes, fair enough. But again, if people want to let you do it, nobody's going to split hairs over that kind of stuff. O-Dog said, emotional pro-blacks will say that the law disproportionately targets black men. That's why the prisons are full, and Michael Jordan invested in them. LeBron is a goat. O-Dog said, person convinced against their wills are the same opinion still. That's right. And nowadays, you can't even convince people against their will because they can just go on their phone. They can find some information to refute you. Back in the day, people couldn't go to their phone in the middle of an argument. Nowadays, they can. Tillman Givens, good morning, said, I'm rereading the Super U. You love that book. Yeah, shout out to the Super U. That's that book with the yellow cover right there behind me. Those of y'all watching on Instagram, those of y'all watching on TikTok, that's this book right here. This is my book on confidence. You can get this by going to mirrorofmotivation.com. Actually, we'll make Super U our sponsored book of the day. Go to mirrorofmotivation.com. I'll give you the book free. You check the box. You get what we call a bulletproof bundle. It's 4 books. Mirror Motivation, this one, the 100 Mental Game Best Practices, and the Mental Handbook, 4 books. And when you're done reading it, you can give it to a friend of yours who needs to read it as well. Let's see what we got over on TikTok. So I'm coming over to you all on TikTok. Moderators, y'all see anything good, just go ahead and pin it. I might be able to get through all the comments here today. Maybe. Let's not speak too soon. Someone asked me my thoughts on crypto. What about it? It's actually not the topic anyway. Traditional said it was all a show for Democrats. Yes, a good show, as a matter of fact. We got to give them credit. It worked. User said it hasn't happened in the past because we haven't had as of a illegal administration. What do you mean by an illegal administration? James Collins, good morning. Lawrence McKinnis, good morning. James says he's running for governor. Yeah, no, it's part of the game. Spy Draxus said he was invited by a congressman because he's running for governor, allegedly. Stubbornlicious said, glad to have smart conversation. I was getting done with scrolling. All right, good. Ant from Seaview said, that's not trespassing. They invited him in. Okay, well, we got, is it he said? That's the whole thing. Nana said, I bet you're okay with white Afrikaners to come in. Does it ever get tired? What are you talking about? White Afrikaners. What are you referring to? And said, every politician, regardless of power, lives for political theater. Yes, because it wins votes. That's the hustle. Limrock said, but that didn't happen, though. What didn't happen? Toy said, Donald's doing everything illegal. Like what? Ricky said, you are wrong. All right, tell me what I'm wrong about. You wasted 3 words there. You could have just said it. Rebel said the mayor is not a federal employee. Yes, I said that. Limrock said, you're making Trump's point, which is what? What point was it? Rebel said they cannot interfere in federal business. I said that. Shannon said, is this host a Trump supporter? No. I'm not a supporter of any political party or a politician. Matt said, only paid protesters can do what they want. Well, anybody can do what they want. Now, there are consequences to what you do, but anybody can do whatever they want. Megaphone said, the personnel there were following their job procedures and didn't want to get fired. Well, everybody at a job probably doesn't want to get fired, I would guess. Courtney, good morning to you. Ann said, you are on the money. Both parties are after name recognition, not working on the issues seriously. Well, some of them are trying to work on it seriously. We don't know their names. That's the whole thing. AG Podcast said, I watched the video that wasn't peaceful. Well, it depends on who started the conflict. So if I show up somewhere peacefully and then your people come in and start beating us up, then we could still say we were peaceful. We just start defending ourselves. Doesn't mean we weren't peaceful initially. So again, that's why it's a he said. Everybody has a different story. Virgo said, all protests, all legal. It's in the Constitution. Are you serious? They didn't steal anything. All protests are all legal? Not necessarily. Depends on what you do when you're protesting. So let's say I decide to protest your business, Virgo, and I bring 50 people with me to protest your business. We stand outside the business with picket signs. Is that legal? Yes. Now we start going up to the front door and banging on the door and banging on the windows and breaking the glass. We're still protesting. Is it legal? No, because now we're starting to attack your property. So just because you call something a protest does not make it legal necessarily. Jason says, violence different than peaceful. Yes, very different. Yes, now it depends on who started the violence. Again, there's a he said about that. Joe Byron said it's not illegal to protest if it's peaceful. Yes, it can be. I already explained that. It very much can be illegal to protest if it's peaceful. If I decide to go protest at the White House and then we go inside the gates of the White House and then we actually go inside the house, right now we're illegal. Even if we're being peaceful, we're able to walk all the way through and there are signs that say don't go in here and we go in, then you are illegal. Just because you are peaceful does not mean everything you do is beyond reproach. And again, didn't I explain this when I was talking to you? That when people hear certain words, they are immediately triggered to think they have blanket assumptions about certain words. Just because you are peaceful does not mean everything you do is legal and it must be accepted. Virgo said, this man puts on a suit to talk on TikTok all day. Don't make him right. Here we go, folks. The straw man of the day, Virgo 84. So those of you who are new around here, we have this thing we call the straw man of the day. And this is when someone makes a straw man, a fallaciously framed comment that is usually what we call a straw man. You take something, you turn it into something that I allegedly said or did. You turn it into something that I didn't say or do, and then you argue against it. Virgo 84, you're the first one with the straw man. This is actually more of an ad hominem, but we'll give you the credit for the straw man. Yeager says, it's a crime. Mayor needs to worry about his residents or citizens, not some illegals. He's not worried about anything. The mayor's worried about getting votes. Stacy said, what law did he break? He was trespassing. According to the official report, he was trespassing. Geek Guy said he's the mayor of that place and has a public building, so how can they attack him? It's a federal building, and just because you're the mayor of a city does not mean you can just walk in any place you want. Can the mayor of your city just walk in your house because he's the mayor? So your framing is off. That's a fallacious framing, Geek God 808. Let's see. JB said, okay, what law was broken during the protest? Trespassing is the reason he was detained, for trespassing. O'Neill said, do you do these lives on the weekends? No, only Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. Wallace said, just because you are thinking doesn't make it logical. I agree. What are you saying? Dally Mack said, I thought it was called gaslighting. So a few of you said gaslighting. Okay, we'll call it gaslighting. So people asking what laws did he break? For the third time, trespassing. Stacey said, this new administration has broken more constitutional laws in a few months. We'll call the cops. I mean, that's what happened on Ross Baraka. Ty 404 said, used to watch my basketball videos. Yes, it is I. Wallace said, who did they hurt? You don't have to hurt somebody to break the law. If I steal something out of your house, I didn't hurt you, but I stole something. Can you call the cops on me? Yes. Some of you, you're illogic in these questions. Stacy said, I saw the video and the ICE agent started first. Yes. Well, go tell your kindergarten teacher that they started it. I mean, what do you want me to say to that? Well, I said most protests are on purpose. Okay, there's nothing wrong with protesting. It's a matter of what you do when you're protesting. Geek said the video you're watching isn't the full video. I know it's not the full video. I'm not adjudicating who was right and who was wrong because in the big picture, it doesn't matter. Had I not explained this enough? I just told you all facts don't matter. Y'all, any of you who watch these lives consistently, do you notice how many times I got to keep saying the same thing? Because every time new people come in, I got to re-explain the same points. Facts don't matter, folks. Many of you are trying to argue the facts. So this is what happened and this person did it first. It doesn't matter. Facts don't matter. I need many of you to accept this. I know I'm going to fail in trying to get you to accept it, but I'm going to keep telling you. Ocean Love said now more woke liberals will do the same thing across the country. Probably, I would think he's going to inspire copycats. Miles Deep said pretty good content. I can watch this, listen to, slightly impressed. I don't know if that's a compliment or a insult, but I'll take it as a compliment. John Marino said, am I the only true one? Everyone will kneel before me. I don't know what he's talking about. Dali Mack said, this is some cult-like behavior. Possibly. But they say the same thing about Trump. So, I mean, come on. Roberta Powell Kelly said, exactly, retired white women. That's what they look like. Pamela Pritchett, good morning, said, I laughed at that comedy show also. Yeah, didn't know about the women standing out there singing. Michelle said, my mom said the other day as a retired white woman, she is so embarrassed by these women. Well, Michelle, there are other retired white women who say the same thing about people who support Trump. So, I mean, just to balance it out. Stacy said, there are so many corrupt cops out there locking people up and they didn't do nothing wrong. No, what's your point? Maybe this is true, Stacy, but what's your point? What's that have to do with the topic? Him said, you can make rap music a huge part of culture, talking about drugs and murder. Yeah, no. So according to TikTok, I can't actually mention pharmaceuticals. I can say pharmaceuticals, but I can't say drugs. That actually violates some rule that they have. I said it like 100 times the other day, and they only gave me a warning after like time 112 that I said it. So now I know. TikTok has a lot of rules, folks. So sometimes I got to talk around things. It's Dennis Beach said, nobody should make money off of the vulnerable people at the lowest time of their lives. It's Dennis Beach. I completely reject your framing here. This is that's an appeal to emotion fallacy, what you just said. And anybody can make money off whatever they want if you're willing to pay for it. It's kind of like if you don't like cigarettes. Now, we know that smoking cigarettes shortens your life. I think we all can generally agree you smoke cigarettes is going to shorten your life. But that doesn't make me a bad person for owning a cigarette company. I wouldn't own one, but it doesn't make me a bad person if you keep buying them. How is that my fault? I'm the one who made you come to the store, buy it, and light it up and smoke it. It ain't my fault. If I own a McDonald's, it ain't my fault you end up with a heart attack. Why do you keep eating it? You go to Whole Foods just as easy as you go to McDonald's. You came to McDonald's. How is that my fault? First law of economics is supply and demand. If someone is demanding something, there will be a supply. So to say that you're making money off of something, this is another fallacious frame a lot of people use these days. And an appeal to emotion fallacy is saying someone making money off of, and then they say whatever the thing is, try to make it seem like it's a bad thing just because you're making money. Just because someone is making money off of something does not mean they're doing something wrong. They're making money because someone is willing to give them money. Now, if you don't want a certain industry to make money, then you need to get the people who are buying it to stop buying it. And then they won't make any money. And they'll shut down and they'll go do something else. Again, if you don't like OnlyFans girls selling their ass on Instagram, then get the rest of the world to stop buying it and they will stop doing it. If nobody was clicking on the links or liking the photos or sending them DMs, they would not have a business and they would go find something else to do. But because they are getting those things, because someone is buying, they continue supplying. This is the first law of economics, folks. Get out of your feelings and understand how the world actually works. So he's saying no one should make money off the vulnerable people at the lowest time of their lives. So I'm assuming you're talking about people who are incarcerated. How are they vulnerable? Now, how'd you end up incarcerated? You probably made a victim of someone else. That's how you end up in jail. You did something wrong to someone else. So how are you the vulnerable person? You're in jail. You violated the law. That's how you got incarcerated. So how are they vulnerable all of a sudden? This smells like this whole criminal justice concept. Criminal justice. Why we need justice for the criminals? We need justice for the victims. There needs to be victim justice. Notice that there's no major for victim justice. You can't even major in victim justice in college. You can major in criminal justice. So I guess we got to help the criminals out. All right. What about the victims? What about the victims? So over on YouTube, Tay Diggs said, you sound like a crazy person saying facts don't matter. Well, tell me why they do. They don't. saying that I sound like a crazy person doesn't mean that what I said is incorrect. And if I'm inaccurate, please tell me what I got wrong. This is to everybody in here. If you think that I got something wrong, just say what I got wrong. Instead of the passive aggressive comments, just say what I got wrong. Just come straight with that so we can just get straight to the point. So I don't have to ask you what I get wrong. So making money off vulnerable people at the lowest time of their lives. Well, I don't know if it's even the lowest time of their life to be in jail. Some people want to be in jail. I don't know if it's the lowest time of their lives. And everybody should make money selling anything that other people want to buy. This is one of the laws of economics. Everybody got that? Miles said, one can also say that the way you think makes you lose money. Depending on what industry you're in, it absolutely can make you lose money, depending on who you're selling to. So there's a trade-off of everything. Everything has a cost. So even if you're doing something that makes you a lot of money, there's still a cost to that. Sometimes the cost is tangible, sometimes it's not, but everything has a cost. Nut House Coordinator said it's all grandstanding. A good amount of it is correct. AKA said Congress does have oversight, and Congress was there, and Baraka was allowed in. Okay. He was arrested when he was outside the facility. Okay. I'm just reading these off and accepting what you say as truth. I'm not questioning whether you have it right or wrong, because again, as I just told you, all facts don't matter. So all of you coming here with these facts to try to correct the record, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. all I was talking about here today was the pro and con talking points based on what happened, not what actually happened or what is factually true, what's factually not true, because factually, facts don't matter. I guess I said for the 50th time here today. And one side can say this happened, the other side says that happened. They can go argue back and forth about it, but ultimately, does it even matter? Not really, because some people are on one side of the conversation and they're going to believe this. Other people on the other side of the conversation, they're going to believe that. Is that ultimately how it actually ends up shaking out in life? That's how it goes, right? How many of you can think of something that happened in your past, whether it's a situation that everybody knows about or only a few people know about, and there's a bunch of people who believe one side of the story and they got this belief about it, and another bunch of other people who saw the same thing, they were in the same place, they believe a different side of the story, and they believe things in this way. And no matter what either one on either side says, they're not changing the minds of the people on the other side. How many of you have ever had that experience? How many of you have ever experienced that phenomenon? Answer is everybody has. Most of you have experienced it multiple times. This is the reason why facts don't matter. So this is why I'm trying to help you all. I'm trying to hit you upside the head and help you understand that keep coming at people with facts. It does not matter what facts you have. Your facts are irrelevant. We should also remember that these are laws. Who wrote these laws are not technically is a rule. Now, I kind of understand what you're saying. Carl, Indiana, good morning. Deborah said Congress was there. No, a member or two that wanted their faces on camera were there. All right, so see, here's your counterfact right there. Joe Byron said we used to all agree about immigration policy before. Yeah, we did. Until Trump weaponized it to win his first election. Doesn't make him a bad guy. He just leveraged it. And then people said, well, we got to go against Trump, so we're going to go against the things that he's about. Simple as that. Sean, thanks for the follow. Sherry said, not a peep out of these people when Obama deported millions. Exactly. So, I mean, this is just how, this is just humanity, folks. V King said he's speaking facts right now. All right, well, thank you. I don't even care about speaking facts, but okay. Tay over on YouTube said, facts are historical depiction of events, hard evidence, science, mathematics is important because it accurately shapes the world around. Yes, no matter how persuasive, slick tongue, marketing guru will get people to believe that the sky is green. Okay, well, we call that the absurd absolute, Tay Diggs, excuse me. I said Tay Green. Get people to believe the sky is green. We call that the absurd absolute. If you're listening, I don't know how much of my conversation you're listening to, but I'm hoping that we're at a higher level of discussion than to throw that one out there. When we get to things like what happened with Ross Baraka in Newark, New Jersey, it's not about the sky being green. It's about something happened. There's one side, there's another side, there's a third side, there's a fourth side, there's a fifth side. No one has to agree on the quote unquote facts of what happened in that situation. As far as a historical depiction of events, it looks like you went and consulted the dictionary. History is what? What is history, ladies and gentlemen? Everybody know what history is? History is a story that is passed down by the people who have access to a pen and paper. That's all history is. Meaning, if I decide to reject a historical depiction, who are you to make me believe it? If I just say that didn't happen, How you going to force me to believe it? I don't have to. History is a story. Same way you have a story, I got a story, she got a story, he got a story, that everybody has a story. Just because you told a story doesn't mean I had to accept it. And in the world that we're in today, it is easier and easier to reject a story that you don't want to accept. Is this true or is it not? I already explained this. And hard evidence, science, mathematics. Well, there are some things that we generally agree on. That's really what it comes down to these days. It comes down to what do we generally agree on. I think we generally agree that slavery happened in America. I think we generally agree. But if someone wants to say, well, it didn't happen, they're going to sound and look crazy because the majority of people in the open marketplace of ideas are going to say, well, it did happen. You may not like the way people are leveraging it today, but we're not going to act like it didn't happen. Generally, they're going to look dumb. What's the point? The point is that if you think someone has bad information, let them go out into the open marketplace with their bad information and let the marketplace tell them that they're wrong. That's how it works. This is the reason why there shouldn't be a thing such as misinformation or disinformation. If you think someone has misinformation, let them keep talking because they're going to expose themselves. And if you see that the response from the marketplace is not what you thought it was going to be, maybe it's you who needs to change your mind, not them. That's the way it should work. That's the way the open marketplace of ideas works. It's not force feeding someone to agree with or accept something just because you agree with or accept it. Let life prove it to them. Let the open marketplace prove it to them. And anybody who has the skill to explain their position is open to this. Now, people who don't have it, they rather confine people to believing what they believe because you don't have a way of persuading and influencing other people to see things your way. That's communication. That's a communication deficit is what that actually is. So to read the rest of what Tay said is important because it accurately shapes the world around you. Again, who defines accuracy? So you're using a lot of subjective terms here. And shapes the world around you, no matter how persuasive, slick-tongued marketing guru. Okay, well, think about Donald Trump. Is Donald Trump persuasive? Is he slick-tongued? Yes and yes. Do half the people not like him? Absolutely. Do half the people love him? Absolutely. So he's persuasive, he's slick-tongued. Barack Obama, persuasive, slick-tongued. Bill Clinton, persuasive, slick-tongued. Hillary Clinton, persuasive, slick-tongued. Kamala Harris, not quite. That's why she didn't win. All right, y'all understand? This is how it works, folks. If you are persuasive and slick-tongued, you can get masses of people to follow you, even if you do not have facts on your side. This is how life works. This is how humanity works. I know a lot of you are coming from a world in which you were taught that it was the opposite. It's not the opposite. All right, this is how it on Rumble Studio. So if you're on YouTube, you got a comment. You might have to post your comment again because it just erased the comments that I was looking at. Many of you have been raised on this idea that you want to have factual information and that you would just get people to follow you just because you have facts on your side. You have been misled. Actually, no, that's wrong. You haven't been misled. You were taught accurately for the world that we were in about 15 years ago. That world has changed. And the world is changing faster now than it's ever changed. So any of you still holding on to this concept of let me just have all the facts. And I'm going to get people to believe me because I'm just going to drill them. I'm going to drill the facts into their head that you have accepted. Understand you're in for a very long and hard life. If you keep thinking that this is what's going to work, this does not work. Doesn't mean you can't have your beliefs. Believe whatever you want to believe. But whether or not you're able to persuade and influence others to see things the way you see them is based on your communication skill. It is not based on whether or not you have facts on your side. Does everybody understand this? I know I'm going to have to say this a million more times over my lifetime. I'm okay with that. I have stepped into this world and I'm okay with this reality. The cost of me understanding this is I got to keep saying it. Tom says, I feel you're a very logical man and keep up the good work. Well, thank you. Some people appreciate it. Some don't. Cass said, facts over feelings. Sometimes, Kath. Sometimes feelings matter more than facts. So don't take that as a hard and fast rule. I'd say adjust as necessary is what I would say. Alice P., congrats on the gifter badge. Cass said he broke the law. Fact. Yes, according to the authorities in charge, he broke the law. Now, he still gets to go to court. Everybody gets their day in court. Games Over Dem said, what do you mean facts don't matter? Are you a Democrat? Well, I just explained why facts don't matter. And no, I'm not a Democrat, nor am I a Republican. Junkyard Dog said, what's my profession? My profession is proving to people that facts don't matter. But no, and seriously, that's actually part of my profession. But Junkyard Dog, my profession is I run a coaching and consultancy business called Work on Your Game Incorporated. It draws from my experience as a professional athlete. The same tools that help athletes reach the top of the sports world, I teach those to entrepreneurs, businesses, and business teams how to apply those in business, such as sales, any type of professional service business like the finance industry, legal industry, consulting industry, et cetera, et cetera. So we help people systematize and scale their businesses to the 6 and 7 figure levels. So my profession, if I had to describe my profession, if I had to describe my profession, I would say, depending on who I'm talking to, depends on how much conversation I want to invite. Because if I give certain answers, it'll make people talk more. If I give other answers, it'll make them talk less. So some people I might just tell them I'm a lawyer. So they'll leave me alone. So it depends. Depends on who's asking. So let me see. Where are we? I lost my spot. I'm just trying to find my spot in the comments here so I can continue where I was at. So I don't know where I was. All right, but I'll just pick up at a random spot. And no, I passed that already. Past that. Oh, here it is. I found it. Sherry said hard truth. Yes. Carla says crazy that the leftists have convinced people to work against their own best interests insane. Well, you know what? People on the left say the same thing about people on the right, Carla. So again, there's a reason why facts don't matter. Extinct Hacker said, I remember the first time someone pulled out an iPhone and Googled a dispute we were having. Yeah, now they can chat GPT it. Not only do they get Google information, they get context, and chat GPT will tell you how to make the argument for you. They'll actually give you the actual words you can say in the conversation. Again, this is the reason why facts don't matter, folks. Chat GPT can tell another person how to argue against any fact that you present to them right there on the spot while you're talking to them. Back in the day, you couldn't do that. So how are you going to convince somebody with a fact? You can't. That's my whole point. Resistance is futile, folks. Carla, thank you for sharing the live with more than 10 people. Tara said, can mods pin the website for book bundle? Yes. Carla, if you're still in here, can you pin mirrorofmotivation.com? Because if I put the comment myself, it won't let me pin it. I don't know why that's the thing. But if somebody else pins it, they'll let it go. Actually, sometimes I can't even write comments in here. I don't know why. So any moderator who's still in here, mirrorofmotivation.com is that link. Queen Overwatch said, can his federal clearance be taken away due to his actions and being arrested? That, I don't know. I doubt that's going to happen. That would be kind of extra. This is all theater. Again, everybody in politics knows exactly what he was doing. So, somebody like Trump, privately, they're probably just laughing about this because they know the game. Now, on camera, he's got to act like it's a big deal. But no. Charlie said, fact, he was outside the gate. Fact, they came out and drug him inside the gate. All right, if you say so, Charlie, I'm not here to dispute facts with you. I just told you, mofos, that facts don't matter. All right, y'all keep coming in here with facts like they matter. They don't matter. I'm sorry to disturb so many of you by telling you this reality. They don't matter. Jacksonville guy. Shout out to Jacksonville. So you're a very intelligent man. I like Jacksonville. It's cheap compared to South Florida. But it's so far north in Florida, it gets cold in Jacksonville. Y'all get snow in Jacksonville? Jacksonville guy? I'm not a fan of snow. It gets cold in Jacksonville. When it's like 90 in Miami, it's like 80 in Jacksonville. I'm not a fan. Rutger Rumshield said, I'll check out the movie, but I'll take another black one to move me. What does that mean? Yeah, the straw man trophy. Yes. We only got one today so far. We only got one straw man so far. Big Marky Mark said, how are you today? Good day from Indianapolis. Shout out to Indianapolis. I have been to Indiana. I don't think I've been to Indianapolis. Actually, I think I was. I think I flew into Indianapolis to get there. Stella Young, good morning. Dior and Gucci French Bulldogs. Good morning. Big Marky Mark said, glad you show up on my FYP. Me too. Shout out to TikTok for putting me on the FYP. Joe Byron says, criminal justice just sounds better. Yeah, it does. But again, we need justice for the victims. Fuck the criminals. Why we need justice for the criminals? They already did something wrong. They got justice. That's how they end up being criminals. They went to jail. They already got justice. Now, where's the victim justice? There's no degree for victim justice. Or I guess they call that social work. I guess the victim justice being a social worker, I'm assuming. Clip guy, good morning to you. TikTok said you're going live for 90 minutes. Don't forget to take a break. I already took a break. TikTok, you must have missed it. Carla said, I'm driving. I can't. Okay, so that link is mirrorofmotivation.com. Let me see something. Let me see if I can pin a comment if somebody else posted. All right, can somebody type in? Let me see if I can try it. Can somebody type in mirrorofmotivation.com and capitalize all three words, mirror of motivation? If somebody types that, then I can pin it, but I cannot type it and pin my own comment. I don't know why TikTok has this restriction. Traditional, if you're in here, can you pin that comment? Mirrorofmotivation.com. Capitalize all three words, mirror of motivation. Cheese, let me see. Colin said it does not snow. It does not snow in Jacksonville? Okay. Mirrorofmotivation.com. We need the .com. And capitalize just the first letter. Mirror, the M, the O, and the M. M-O-M. Mirrorofmotivation.com. We need the .com. In my experience selling things online, if you don't give people specific information, they tend to mess it up. Mirror of motivation. And I don't know why TikTok doesn't allow you to put links. It doesn't make any sense. You probably got to be part of their sellers program. I get emails about that shit on TikTok every single day. Get in the sellers program, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so there it is. Mirror of motivation. All right. Traditional put a comma instead of a period, but y'all get it. Mirrorofmotivation.com. It won't let you pin it. All right, it's all good. We got it now. Mirrorofmotivation.com. That's where you can get the book. The book's free. Just cover the shipping. Check the box for the bulletproof bundle, and that's where you get this book along with two other. You get the Mirror Motivation, then this, and two others that equals 4. It's called the bulletproof bundle. If you read books, nobody reads just one book. So why would you just get one book? It doesn't make any sense. You might as well get 4. You might as well get 30. All right, I will sell you 30 books, by the way. All right, so I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern. I will take a few more comments. So anybody else has a question or comment, go ahead and post it. We did get through all the comments, at least the ones that I can see so far. If anybody else has any around anything that I mentioned here today, it doesn't have to be this Ross Baraka situation. This one's going to come and go. And there'll be something else to talk about. I think I might talk about greedflation tomorrow. You heard about this concept, greedflation? I saw someone using this term yesterday. I was scrolling through X and somebody said they were doing a comparison of how the prices of McDonald's food, but yes, McDonald's has gone up over the last 8 years. And that a lot of the prices of food has gone up over 200%. In other words, double the price double and even sometimes close to triple the price for a lot of McDonald's menu items like McNuggets, cheeseburgers, fries, etc. And someone was saying this is a reflection of greedflation. In other words, they're blaming the company for raising the prices of their products because the company is still making a profit year over year, but they're still raising their prices. So it's almost like they are inflating the price just because they're greedy and they just want to make more money. And people are talking about this as if it's some type of terrible thing that they're doing. And Carlos said, definitely don't go to Taco Bell. Yes, don't go to Taco Bell for several reasons. First of all, that's not real Mexican food. And if you actually been to Mexico and ate the food and then go to Taco Bell, Taco Bell is not Mexican food. It's an American version of Mexican food and it's a bad version of Mexican food, first of all. Secondly, don't go to Taco Bell unless you also want to go to the bathroom and be on the toilet a lot within 24 hours. And third, I'm assuming Carl is referring to the price. So anyway, people are talking about this greedflation thing as if it's a bad thing that a company is raising its prices even though they're still making money. So what I'm taking from that is people are under this assumption that just because your company is making money, you shouldn't raise prices and just be okay with the money that you are making and not try to grow and get bigger and better based on selling your stuff to the customers who want to buy it. Doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, we'll talk about that maybe in the future. Carlos said because of the food. Okay, yeah, don't go to Taco Bell because of the food. It's a good idea. I haven't eaten Taco Bell. I can't remember the last time I had Taco Bell. Not a fan of Taco Bell. If you ever actually been to Mexico, you'll never eat Taco Bell again because that's not real Mexican food. It's not even close. All right, so Traditional said Taco Bell and laxatives. Well, Taco Bell is the laxative. You don't even need a laxative. Just eat Taco Bell. So any of you need to clean out your colon, just eat some Taco Bell. You don't have to take any medicine. You got to do nothing. You'll be good. So Shannon said Hallmark raised prices as well and blamed tariffs. Well, prices are always going up. Everybody should understand it. Prices of things are always increasing because the United States government prints money. So our dollar becomes less valuable as we put more into circulation. So prices will always go up. What that means for everyone listening to this is that your value to the marketplace must always increase. It has to. Fishing Weekend Warrior on YouTube said many items have gone down in price, such as popcorn. Okay. I didn't know that, but I like popcorn. Carla said good topic would be RFK and Maha. Yeah, I talked about RFK. I talked about RFK like 2 weeks ago. I think I talked about him like 2 weeks ago. I was talking about RFK. I've talked about him more than once. So the first time was when he was being nominated and everybody was all excited, positively and negatively. Then the next time was when he became next contestant. So for the first 90 days of this Trump administration, everybody was trashing Elon Musk. Then they stopped trashing Elon Musk. They started trashing RFK for a little bit. And now RFK just named Casey Means, who wrote a book called Good Energy. He didn't name her. Trump named her to be Surgeon General. So we'll see if she becomes Surgeon General. I bet she probably will. And now people are talking about Maha because now he's starting to get active. RFK is starting to get active right now. So I might talk about RFK again. RFK he ain't quite Elon Musk when it comes to drawing attention. He's not quite Trump. He's nobody's Trump when it comes to drawing attention, but he does draw attention. So I might leverage RFK to draw some more attention. So I might do that. I might talk about RFK. Maybe something more exciting will happen in the news today, and I can talk about that. Let me see. I don't see anything super exciting right now, but anything can happen. So, and if all else fails, we'll just talk about Donald Trump. All right, that's the people's criticism. Jay, why are you always talking about Donald Trump? Because you motherfuckers pay attention when I talk about Donald Trump. That's why I talk about him. All right, so someone said talk about national debt. That's what Trump's trying to fix with Doge and Terra. I talked about that when Elon was the target. So I had 60. I don't know if you were around in January and February of this year, but that's when I talked extensively about Elon, Doge, and the money thing. Right now is not a hot topic, so I try to pick something that's kind of like trending. So this Ras Baraka, he helped me out by getting arrested at the ICE facility. So anything that happens in the government, especially as Trump is president, is usually good for drawing attention because everybody has an opinion on Donald Trump. So anything that has Trump's name in it usually draws attention. So I will take advantage of that and use his name to draw attention to myself. All right. So any of you who's asking why I talk about Donald Trump, I'm admitting it. I am using him to draw attention. All right. Thank you, Donald Trump. All right. Thank you, President Donald Trump. If Kamala had won, it wouldn't be nearly as exciting to use the president's name. But Donald Trump's name draws attention. So I should hope that he runs in 2028 so I can keep using him for attention for myself. I'm kind of joking, but I'm not. All right. So Carla said the sea country, Terra paused for 90 days. Yeah, I heard about that. But the thing is, it's hard to talk about the sea country, Carla, because I'm on TikTok. And secondly, I got to keep calling them the sea country. So that's the problem with talking about the sea country or the R country. And I don't really have much of an opinion about the situation with the I country and the P country. I don't really have much of an opinion on that. That's why I haven't talked about it. I don't really pay that much attention to that aspect, that area of the world. But the sea country, I could say a lot of things, but I can't say those things on TikTok. So that's why I don't talk about the sea country. So sometimes in life, you gotta know the rules. You gotta know what you can do, what you can't do in certain places. So I can't talk about the sea country on TikTok. That's not going to happen. That would be a bad idea for my TikTok reach. I wouldn't be on the FYP ever again. So those of you who found me on the FYP, all right, you want me to keep getting found on the FYP, don't ask me to talk about the sea country. That would be a bad business move. So Tay Diggs said, how do I start a high ticket coaching business? Well, first of all, develop some high ticket skills. Secondly, identify who actually wants your high ticket skills. And third, you got to figure out how to let them know that you have it. And then you got to sell it to them. 1, 2, 3, 4. You listen to my podcast, Tay Diggs. I got an episode on my show. I got several episodes on my show where I've talked about that. If you want to get into the high ticket service business, any type of service, doesn't matter if it's coaching. It could be, you could be a personal trainer. You could be a high ticket personal trainer. You can be a high ticket accountant. You can be a high ticket Sonoma Buzz. I see you over there on Instagram. You can be a high ticket accountant. You can be a high ticket physical therapist. You can be a high ticket financial advisor. Bernie Madoff. You ain't got to do a Bernie dip. You can be high ticket like he was. You can be a high ticket. Name any type of business where you're offering a service. You can be high ticket because service businesses have high price, what we call elasticity, meaning you can be cheap, you can be expensive, and expensive is relative, as is cheap. So a lot of things you can do. Listen to my podcast. I've talked about that extensively many times. Also, what you can do, actually, Tay Diggs, a good idea, a good piece of advice I would give you is get on my free AI chatbot. One of the moderators put this in there. It's workonyourgame.com/AI or dreallday.com/AI. dreallday.com/AI. That is my chatbot. I got a free chatbot that all of you can access. All of you can access this chatbot for free. It's on the ChatGPT platform. So go to dreallday.com/AI. And what it's going to take you to is the Dre GPT. So you got Chat GPT. This is Dre GPT. All right, so look at it right there. Y'all see that? Dre GPT. So you can actually get on my chatbot right here, and you can ask it a question as if you were talking to me, and it will answer the question as if it was me. It's been trained on my style. It's been trained on my voice. It's been trained on my material. Dre GPT. DreAllDay.com/AI. Thank you, traditional. Let me see if I can pin that. It's DreAllDay.com/AI. Y'all can get on my free chatbot. So Tay digs that question. I'm going to ask the question right now to my chatbot and prove to you. So it said, Carl, won't let you pin it. I don't know why. I just pinned it, but I don't know why. Maybe because I already pinned it. Might be because I already pinned it, Carl. So I'm going to ask the same question that Tay Diggs just asked, and let's see if it works. Dre, how do I start a high-ticket coaching business? Y'all see the question, right? Okay. So let's see what it says. So if my chatbot is not good, then I'm going to expose myself and make myself look terrible right now if it doesn't answer the question properly. Let's see what it says. All right. So the answer is, I'm going to read this, okay? You want to start a high-ticket coaching business? Good. That means you're aiming to work with high-level clients who pay premium because they want transformation, not just information. This sounds about what I would say. Here's the mindset and game plan. All right, so here I'm going to tell you exactly what it says. Number one, pick a high-value problem. And I said that, right? Not just any problem, a costly problem. One is keeping your target person stuck, frustrated, or bleeding money. Clarity, identity, scale, confidence, pricing. These are premium problems when sold to the right person. Number two, define your avatar. One person, one outcome. Don't build for the masses, build for your ideal buyer. You need to know their pain points, language, and desired results better than they do. Number three, sell outcomes, not access. Nobody's paying $5K or more to talk to you weekly. They're paying to solve a problem and shift identity. Sell the transformation. Speak to the after picture they want to see in the mirror. Number four, authority over attention. You don't need to go viral. You need to be the go-to in a specific space. Use content to demonstrate thinking, not just tips. Use your platform to sell the result and call out those ready to make a move. Number five, build the system. Offer, messaging, lead gen, sales calls, close, onboarding, delivery. That's the machine. Start simple, refine later. Most coaches are winging it. You need SOPs, automation, and follow-up sequences. Number six, 7 points. Number six, price with confidence. Your price tells the market how serious they should be. Low ticket attracts window shoppers. High ticket demands decision makers. You lead with value and command respect. Number seven, sell like a pro. Handle objections like a leader, not a beggar. This is where most people fold. Buyers want a guide, not a buddy. Confidence is contagious. Yours will be tested on every call. This isn't side hustle energy. You're stepping into the transformation business. Get serious or get out. If you want the system behind the curtain, that's inside Work on Your Game University. So as you can see, where are you at in this process? Are you building an offer or are you already trying to sell it? So ask a follow-up question just to keep the conversation going. ChatGPT is really good at that. You ask a question in ChatGPT, it always asks you a follow-up question to kind of keep you talking. So, and there's some things I want to do to train this. Is doing things it's not supposed to be doing, but I'll get to that in a second. So anyway, that is my custom bot called Dre GPT. So I just gave you a demonstration right there. Had that demonstration failed, then most of you probably wouldn't go look at it. So y'all can get this by, again, it's DreAllDay.com/AI. That's where you can get access to my free chatbot called Dre GPT. And that's just the beta version. I'm about to make a better version of that. And we can train it and give it more material, because right now the limitation is you can only put so much material into the training. So ChatGPT has like 1 million files. Dre GPT does not have 1 million files. I got 1 million files, but I can't give it 1 million because there's a limit on how much stuff you can give it. But as technology improves and I can put more material into the bot, then it will be even better and even more accurate on the stuff that I've done. And then eventually I'm going to take like everything I've ever said ever in life and put it into the bot. So it's basically going to be like ChatGPT, but just for my stuff. So yesterday I was just asking, by the way, since we're on the subject, yesterday I was asking ChatGPT how it is able to answer questions so damn fast. Because I was asking it something. I was out with my son, as a matter of fact. He was asking me, what's this? What's this? What's this? He was pointing at like trees and bushes. And I'm a city guy. I don't know the answers to these questions. So then I said to him, not to him, I went in ChatGPT and I was just taking pictures of bushes and trees and seeds and leaves and asking, hey, what's this? What's this? And it answers the question like immediately. Any of you ever go on ChatGPT, you can take a picture of something and say, what's this? And like not even 30 seconds, in 10 seconds, it tells you what it is. So I'll give you an example. Since y'all are here, y'all want to hear this. So I'm out with my son yesterday and he said, Daddy, what's this? And he was pointing at this. So all I did was take a picture of this. And this is just some leaves, and most of you would ignore this, right? But my son, he notices it. He's like, "What this?" I said, "I don't know. Let me take a picture of it, and I'll find out." So now my son thinks I can answer any question because he asked me, "What's this?" Everything he sees, and I can come up with an answer thanks to ChatGPT. So this is called a sea grape tree. That again, I would never have known this. And he said, "You find these all over South Florida, especially near beaches, parking lots, and medians." And we were near the beach, so that makes sense. And then it explains what it is and how it knows. And then I was asking ChatGPT, how are you able to answer these questions so damn fast? And it was explaining to me that it's trained on all this material, which most of you probably know, and it's trained on pattern recognition. So it was explaining to me, I got to find the actual original question of what I was asking, because I was asking how it was able to answer. Oh, this is what I was asking. I said, how are you able to identify things so quickly and answer any question, regardless of what it is, so quickly with such fast and accurate recall? That requires some very fast processing and to have logged an impossible amount of information. And this is what it said. I'm not going to read all this, but basically gave me 5 reasons. Number 1, it's trained on a lot of data. Number 2, pattern recognition, not memory. So I thought ChatGPT, you ask it a question, it just pulls from its memory very quickly. But what it says is that it's not memory, it's pattern recognition. So what that means is it recognizes similarities in the way people ask questions. So it's able to basically not even guess, but it kind of quote unquote knows what you're going to ask based on the way you word the question. So it basically predicts the most likely accurate response based on what it has already been trained on. And that's based on its training. So basically it already logged everything. So anything you could ask, it already knows the answer, I guess. Fast parallel processing, which is what I guess. It's extremely quick processing. So it's running 1,000 possibilities at once, and then it's surfacing the best ones immediately. And it doesn't browse the internet. So if you ask a question about a current event, you can see it will take longer because it's like looking through the internet to find an answer. This is the reason why I don't even use Google anymore. I just use ChatGPT. Because if I ask it a question about a current event, it just Googles it. Basically, it looks through all these news sources, and then it tells me what happened, which is better than Google as far as I'm concerned. And I'm about to do an episode, as a matter of fact. If you are not tuned into my podcast, last thing I'll tell you all today, how to get my podcast. I'll tell you that in a second. But I don't use Google anymore. If I have a question, I basically go to ChatGPT and ask the question, and it gives me a better answer than Google gives because ChatGPT gives you context, not just information, which is important. So it doesn't browse unless it needs to. And then the last one, your prompts help target. So this is what anyone who uses AI should understand. If you want AI to help you, you have to ask better questions. The better your question and the more detail you offer in the question, the better the answer that you get. That's how AI works. So if you ask shitty questions, you get shitty answers. That's pretty much how it works. And if you ask vague questions, you get vague answers. So, and here's the good thing about ChatGPT is that you can ask it to teach you how to ask it questions. So you can go to ChatGPT and say, I want to get better at asking questions. Help me out. And it will tell you what to tell it so that you can ask a better question. So you can be a complete idiot as long as you know how to ask the right question. ChatGPT can make you look smart. Pretty much, if you ask the right questions, but you still got to ask the right questions. So we still need humans because humans can help you ask the right questions. So I was asking it questions about the pattern recognition part. And it said it doesn't know stuff. It just spots patterns in language. So basically it knows how people talk. So when you ask a question, so this is an example. It says, when I post a picture of a tree and I say, what is this? It doesn't search a database for the tree. Instead, it recognizes statistical patterns in the way this has been described in the past, including it looks at a photo. So this is what's crazy about it, is that you can go outside, take a picture of a tree and post the picture and say, what's this? And it can tell you what it is within 10 seconds, which is crazy. And then it explains to you why it's right. Now, it doesn't mean everything ChatGPT says is right. So be careful with that. So anyway, it basically can look at the image pattern and it can tell what it is. So ChatGPT says that I'm like autocomplete on steroids. So it can autocomplete, instead of autocompleting a word like your iPhone, it can autocomplete an entire paragraph, an entire idea, and an entire chain of logic. So I'll ask ChatGPT a question about business, for example, and it will say, okay, well, yeah, you can do this, this, and this, but would you like me to help you framework out how you could also do this and this and this to go with it? And it's almost like predicting what it thinks you're going to say next. So it's actually very good at that. And then it says it's not just surface level matching. so it can handle clusters of information and how things relate to each other, so it can answer abstract questions. So if you want to get better at logical fallacies, if you just describe what someone's doing and ask it, hey, what logical fallacy is this? It will tell you. That's how I learned a new one last week called the Mott and Bailey fallacy. When someone does something that's kind of questionable, and then when you call them out on the bullshit, they try to make it seem innocent. That's called the Mott and Bailey fallacy. I've always known about people doing that, but I didn't know it had a name. So then I figured out the name because I described it, and ChatGPT said, oh, that's called this. So again, if you can describe things, even if you don't know what it is, ChatGPT can help you figure it out. And what's the other one? And like I just told you, the more specific you are, the better I am. That's what it says. I get better when you ask more specific questions. So when you ask good questions, my answers get better. And then I asked it about another tree because my son was pointing at this tree and I didn't know what it was. And again, I don't care. But now that I have access to this, I asked. The cabbage palm. So this tree right here, and if you live in South Florida, this is called a cabbage palm. So now y'all know. Now you got some new information here. And this is the state tree of Florida. I didn't even know that. So this is the state tree of Florida. It has fan-shaped fronds, dead fronds still attached around the trunk is a dead giveaway. A fibrous trunk, grows naturally in coastal hammocks, and it tolerates hurricanes, salt, drought, and floods. No, so it's a very tough tree. That's why they probably stay around for 100 years. And it used to be used by Native Americans for thatch and fiber. And then it asks you, do you want to know more about this tree? I don't want to know more about it, but this is what ChatGPT can do. So Al said cabbage palm is what they make the tiki huts from. Yes, that's exactly what it looks like. All right, so see, Al knows some stuff that ChatGPT knows. I didn't know that. I don't know anything about this nature shit. I'm a city guy. I'm a concrete jungle guy. But anyway, I meant to tell y'all where my podcast is. That's the last thing we'll do here today, and then we'll wrap this up. I have a show that comes out every single day. It is called Work on Your Game. Where is it? It's called Work on Your Game. You can find it on Apple or Spotify. It is free. Comes out every single day. It's called Work on Your Game. Today's episode was number 3,285. And actually, I'm talking about the red pill movement. You heard about these guys, the red pill? So I argue both sides. It's just a habit of mine. So I did 2 episodes talking about why red pill is good, and I did 2 episodes talking about why red pill is bad. Again, it's called Work on Your Game. Comes out every single day. It is free of charge. You find it on Apple, Spotify. And the good thing about this, as opposed to these lives, is that these episodes are only about 25 minutes each. And it's just me talking. And I don't take questions. So about 25 minutes each every single day. And this is more on the personal development evergreen side more than it is the current events. I don't really talk about current events on my podcast. It's more evergreen, personal development, stuff that you can use anytime, anywhere, no matter who you are. Mindset, entrepreneurship, business, personal growth, communication skills, leadership skills, all of that stuff and more, all in my podcast. And again, you want to learn from me, you can start with my chatbot for free, Dre GPT. Go to dreallday.com/AI. But, oh yeah, let me tell you all something else about that Dre GPT. We're about to start charging for that. That's not going to be free forever. I'm telling y'all right now, I'm building a funnel this week. It's not going to be expensive, but we are going to charge for it. It'll be relatively cheap. It'll be like less than McDonald's, but we are going to start charging for that. So it's not going to stay cheap, not going to stay free forever. So if you want to try it out for free, I suggest you go do it right now. That's dreallday.com/AI. But we're about to start charging for that, and that we're going to use that as a feeder into the university, which is my coaching and consulting program. So again, that's dreallday.com/AI. You want to use my Dre GPT chatbot for free. And I mean like this week. And so when I say we're about to start charging for that, I don't mean like 3 months from now, like this week. All right, everybody got that? So we got the 60K likes. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Traditional, both of you, for moderating here today. We are officially out of time. As you can see, my timer is flashing and vibrating right now. We like to start on time and end on time around here. So again, we do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. So if you like this one, come back tomorrow. If you hated this one, come back tomorrow. If you're not sure, the jury is still out on me, come back tomorrow. We don't know what the topic is going to be. Whatever happens today might lead to that topic. Tomorrow, but it will be at 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. And if you don't see me on here, that means I probably got suspended off TikTok. But I'm not getting suspended. Hopefully I don't get suspended. I've been suspended 10 times. Hopefully I don't get suspended again. All right, TikTok, we're here. All right, we're in good shape, TikTok. Thank you. So I'll see you all tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern. The replay to this will be on my YouTube channel. The link is in my profile. You also follow me on Instagram. The link is also in my profile here on TikTok. I'll see you all tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern. We out of here. Make sure you go check out that chat bot before we start charging for it. I'm not joking. Everybody have a great day. We out of here.